time is now 5:33, and I will call this general public meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to thank everybody for participating tonight, and for those who submitted their inquiries via email. We really appreciate your engagement and your input. It's been a while since we've had one of these meetings, so I'm going to do my best as chair to run an organized meeting and to get through as much as we can. We had more than 140 submissions from residents, so I'm really happy to see the engagement. And previously, looking at old agendas, the last time we did one of these was, I think, 8 years ago, there was anywhere between 0 and 7 items that were submitted for consideration. So we consolidated that down into 6 topics, and we will go through that shortly. I just wanted to read an excerpt from the charter, just for a little bit of background information. The charter states that the council president shall call no less than 2 meetings of the general public each fiscal year for the purpose of obtaining public input to the policies of the town. The meeting agenda and format shall be determined by the town council and shall be designed to obtain public input to the policies of the town. Members of the public may submit potential items for the agenda of the meetings in accordance with rules adopted by the town council. The public shall be given at least 14 days notice of the date and time of such meetings. The notices shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation within the town and posted on the town bulletin board. The town council may provide for additional venues for such postings.
Supposing you have a town.
Oh, newspaper, yeah. This was, that was my next thing, is this was advertised in the Brockton Enterprise on 12/19 on the front page of the Town of Bridgewater website from 12/18 to 12/30. And on the Town of Bridgewater Facebook page, and a copy was placed on the bulletin board on the first floor of the Academy building. So the only items that we have for tonight are what I had previously mentioned, which is item B, which is items of a general nature that the public wants addressed and communicated to the council by December 30th, 2025. And we do have those organized in the 6 topics that you, well, not everybody has a copy of the agenda, but they are water supply, quality, infrastructure. That is item A. Item B is growth, zoning, and development. Item C is fiscal policy. Item D is governance and oversight. Item E is intergovernmental and institutional impacts. And item F is environmental protection. I have somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes designated for each topic based upon the number of inquiries that we received, and we will hopefully get through everything. If we do not, then we will continue having those discussions, and we'll put those items on discussion for a future council meeting. So hopefully the next meeting, if we don't get through something, we'll just make it a discussion item. We'll continue to have that input. There are a lot of questions, and if those questions aren't answered tonight, then our town manager and our department heads, they will provide those answers in some sort of written correspondence to everybody that asked those questions. So that being said, we'll start with water supply, quality, and infrastructure. And what we did was we consolidated these 140 items into policy suggestions and questions. So I'm going to start with the first one, which was asked by a number of folks, which was to reestablish a water and sewer commission with qualified citizen oversight. So if anyone from the public would like to come up and speak on this item, we would love to hear your input on our water and sewer commission. And just as a reminder, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jean DiBattista.
Oh, the mic is on mute.
What? It's green now. All right, my name is Jean DiBattista, 260 Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater, Mass. And the reason I stood up when you said that is I think establishing a Bridgewater Water Commission is an excellent idea. I do think it needs to be made up of qualified personnel who have an appropriate background. And my ideas for what such a commission could do, without having read what the commission did in the past when it existed priorly, is to monitor the quantity and quality of the town's water supply on an ongoing basis, Work with town personnel to provide regular reports on the status of the town's water supplies and efforts to improve the situation that currently exists. Assist in determining if Bridgewater has the capacity to add additional significant state facilities and commercial water connections or not. Monitor the connections of existing and proposed larger users, including state and commercial connections, and focus on charging a higher water rate based upon the current and future projected water usage of high-volume users. Work with the town's Bridgewater Department of Water to upgrade and expand the existing water infrastructure. Assist in finding grants and additional funding for the above uses. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to come up and speak on this item?
David Moore, 54 Flag Street. I've been involved with town government either as a full-time employee or volunteer or part-time employee for over the last, 40, 45 years. And for a number of years, while I was the building inspector in town and the chief zoning officer, I worked very closely with the water and sewer commissioners. And I can't stress enough the need for a strong board of water and sewer commissioners. We've got a water superintendent, and we've got trained certified personnel on the water department to handle the day-to-day and the short-term goals of the water department. But a strong water and sewer commissioners is, you can't be without it. Up until 2010, we were one of the top 5% of the water systems in the state because of the efforts of that Water and Sewer Commission. So we've got to go back to that, poll the town for some good professionals and get their input. Hopefully, we'll get some good people to volunteer as we've had in the past, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder to councilors that this should be an engaging process too, so if anybody has any feedback, please provide that.
I just want to say here to that, because it's true, and I remember when we lost all the people on our Water and Sewer Commission, and we really do need a good Water Sewer Commission. So thank you, David.
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to inform everyone that I have already filed an article for the agenda for a water commission, and it is being currently reviewed by our town council.
Yes, thank you. Okay, would anyone else like to come up and speak on this one?
Is this item A or D? 'Cause it sounded like you were...
We're on A. We're on
It is, okay.
water supply quality infrastructure,
David.
specifically water commission.
So this is not on water supply or quality infrastructure, item A?
It is, yes.
It is, okay. My name's Lincoln Andrews. I'm the owner of Stiles and Hart Brick Company. 38 years ago, I had worked closely with Chairman of the Selectmen, Jeff Nagel. My mother worked closely with the town manager, and we secured the acreage for the Stiles and Hart Conservation Area. Moving forward, when Troy Clarkson became town manager, since then I've been unable to communicate, and actually since David left too, David kept us connected with Bridgewater. I've been unable to have any meaningful communication with anybody in Bridgewater. It started back with Troy. I had 35 acres that's off of 18 that you and I identified together, Johnny, or Chairman Loretti, excuse me. No, it's important. It really is. And now, so I taught, and then I worked with Troy Clarkson, and it's all a matter of public record, and that just deteriorated in the worst way. There was not one select or town council member, whatever it was at the time, that was ever involved in the process, and it totally fizzled, and it was ready to go. I could delineate all the reasons why. Then comes along town manager Dutton, and you've all seen the letter that I posted about water that I sent to him, saying that I remind him once again. I never once ever received a response from him. And then Blythe Robinson comes in, And she, on her second day, as Mr. Rollins can attest, and other people that are in the email loop, and the people down in Bridgewater, actively sought to try to put me out of business while I was trying to work with her to get land for Bridgewater to have in perpetuity. Instead, she was focused on putting me out of business and issuing legal threats against me. And unfortunately, once again, there was no town council members involved. And it was a pretty serious issue. You know, she was issuing cease and desist orders on me left and right because she was working with a man from Middleborough. Once again, it's all public documentation. And right now, I'm in a situation where we have kind of jointly identified through Johnny, Chairman Loretti, excuse me, and the citizens group here where water fields are located, and it appears that I have 2 locations that are sitting on aquifers that are more than likely going to be low in PFAS, maybe non-detect PFAS. And granted, it's been over the holidays, but how do I have a meaningful dialogue and keep it moving along? And who's in charge? And how do we start a process of open dialogue about securing water for Bridgewater? I want to get Bridgewater water, and I want to get Bridgewater land. Now I just need partners to have an open dialogue with. My lawyer will fly up from Washington if we have a plan together. And all of you have had some sort of communication, most of you have, to set up a meeting. I think maybe you're in contact with her now, or she's contacted you, Mr. Town Manager. But who do we start with? Who do we talk to?
I would imagine it'd be our town manager, right, Justin?
That would exactly be the case. Exactly the minute, as we're going to clarify this, I received an email from you in December. I think the very next day I replied to that email. We scheduled a meeting. Your attorneys have, rescheduled that meeting. They rescheduled it to this week. We're scheduled to meet this week.
Yep,
So that's the dialogue that occurs.
That's great. Now, I'm just asking, so the town council members do not have any part in this process, is that correct?
Well, I think that'd be a question for our town manager and town attorney, but as I understand it, that the day-to-day and the negotiations would occur with the town manager, and then any monies which would need to be appropriated for any agreements would inevitably have to go through the council. But I would kind of liken this to collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is done by town departments, and then it is ratified by the council. I don't think, unless I'm wrong here, that the council would be privy to negotiations that early in the process.
I agree with all of that. However, so long-range water infrastructure planning is in the hands of the town manager.
No, I think that the council would provide direction and policy as to where we want to go. So that's an interesting point that you make, because obviously identifying, and it is one of these agenda items, is to identify additional water sources, and that is part of our long-term plan. So you could make an argument that this is very much a part of that plan. It's just, where do you draw the line between negotiating the details of that plan?
Even before that, how do we get to that point? Because my lawyer is willing to fly up here and meet with, whoever the concerned parties are. And so if it's just the town manager, that's great. And if none of you have anything involved in it, that's great too. I think that I, just like the residents of Bridgewater, need some sound direction as to what the protocols are and who's in charge of what stage, the bonding capacity for water improvements, how much is available, how much water you want to acquire for the future. There's so much that goes involved in water delivery, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is people want to be able to turn on the spigot and know that it's coming, that water's going to come out before anything else. And I just want to help Bridgewater, and I guess this is what I'm asking for. I need help from Bridgewater to work with Bridgewater. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Did you have something, Councilor Ellenberg?
Yes, I just wanted to say that the board sets policy, and our town manager executes policy. Now, we have a situation where we could potentially be hooking up to Brockton Water. Or we could be doing Mr. Andrews' water. We have a variety of things. We could be doing the Vernon Street well. So the point is that we have to set the direction of where our town manager needs to go.
I 100% agree with you. And I think that part of that process is going to be doing a cost analysis of all of those options. We need to see how much it's going to cost us to bring water in from Brockton. We know the costs, or at least the most recent updated costs for the Vernon Street wells, the drilling and what it would take to get that online. And then we have to have these preliminary discussions with Mr. Andrews and Stiles and Hart to see what the viable options are there. And I think that once we have that information, the council should deliberate extensively on that process and figure out where we want to go. Is it going to be one of those options, two of those options, all of those options? But I know that we need to be proactive in having enough water supply so that we could be in the position that our neighbors in Middleborough are, where maybe we could sell water one day because we have a plethora of water. You know, that's obviously way down the line, but what a great opportunity and position it would be in to have enough water to be able to do that.
And I think some of the counselors need to be involved because we who live in the town have skin in the game. And we are charged with protecting the town of Bridgewater. And we need to, of course, deal with our town manager in terms of what level of involvement the council can be at. But I think we need to be informed earlier rather than after all the negotiations are complete and it's all signed, sealed, and delivered. I am particularly concerned that we don't sign up with Brockton Water.
Thank you.
Thank you for that segue, because I'm equally as concerned about that issue as I've stated multiple times. All of these issues are council issues. It's a downtown issue. It's a community and economic development issue. It's a public health issue. It's a safety issue for police and fire. It's a budget and finance issue. Talking about skin in the game, we have committees that can deal with some of this stuff. Yes, the day-to-day operations are done by the town manager, but we are the elected representatives of the people, and the people are talking to us. They wanted this. This is number one on the agenda. I mean, I'm actually surprised there's not another major issue on this agenda, but that one, how much have we talked about it? How much was it talked about prior to any of us sitting in this room? And what was done about it?
Nothing.
Doesn't look like a lot. Nothing to do with our current town manager. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards. I want to, and we got a project. There's permits issued, and we don't have the infrastructure to support that. We have to fix our problems before we build more. So that's what I'm hearing from my constituents.
I agree. So, well, I'll open it back to the public to see if anybody else has any additional comments. We are technically on Water Sewer Commission. Anyone on that one before we move on?
Good evening, Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. With respect to the commission, I'd like to see what the authority they have, because I believe it can only be advisory. And that means you can say something, but the town, not you guys, but the town manager and his people would have to implement it. So what's the real role of that commission? If it's just people sitting and talking as advisory, they don't have any teeth because our charter doesn't allow that. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is, I think you're about to mention the Board of Commissioners that you're working on.
My article for the Board of Commissioners gives the Water Commission the power to regulate the water and see that it has the safety and so forth, and that is according to Mass General laws. I don't have the exact chapter on me here, but it is set up along with the parameters of state law.
Thank you. Yeah, as Councilor Ellenberg mentioned, that article is being reviewed, and we're going to hopefully have that on a council agenda, and we'll be able to deliberate on that further at that time. What we'll now move on into next for policy suggestions on the topic of water. We had a couple mentions of establishing a wellhead protection plan and designating a wellhead protection team. So if anybody would like to speak to that specifically, the time would be now to come up and provide some input on that.
Hi, Mark Peterson, 43 Church Street. Yeah, I submitted that proposal for the wellhead protection plan, wellhead protection team. It seemed like it would be more for protecting the areas around the wells, and it would make sure that the departments within the town kind of interact with each other to make sure they're doing whatever they can to protect the areas around the wells, and it wouldn't have any rate input. It wouldn't input anything on the rates of town. So if that's one of the drawbacks to the Water and Sewer Commission, the wellhead protection team should not have that problem.
Thank you. So I guess a question for our town manager, is that something that we've implemented in the past? Do we have plans to implement something like that?
It's not something we've implemented in the past, but, you know, obviously, you guys are having a discussion about policy. If that's something that we want to take a look at, we can discuss that.
Can you or perhaps our superintendent speak more to what something like that would look like? Are you familiar with what a wellhead protection plan is? I've heard of them before. I'm just not intimately familiar with it.
No, we won't do that tonight. We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at the query, and we can follow up, and we can put that on agenda to discuss.
Okay. Anything from counselors?
I would just like to make a brief comment that Mr. Andrews' land has conservation land on it also, so I would imagine that would be wellhead protection.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone from the public like to speak on the wellhead protection plan? Okay. Next, we'll move into for policy suggestions on water. There were a number of inquiries surrounding creating an ongoing process rules to determine when new water connections should be allowed and who can deny these. Before I open it up for comment, can our town manager just speak a little bit to what that process is like today, assuming that we are not in a water ban, and then maybe speaking to what, sorry, not a water ban, rather a water emergency, and then can we speak to what that process is at the moment?
In terms of rules and regulations?
Yeah, rules and regulations in regard to how new connections are approved.
Yeah. If new, rules and regulations, one, we're having our DPW department, and as well as our council, town attorney, town manager, reviewing water rules and regulations. We're undergoing that process now. We might be able to put something forward in this year, updating water rules and regulations. In terms of, I think, if you saying new tie-ins of development, it goes through the planning board process. It goes after the planning board process and approvals, if ZBA, if necessary. It will obviously go to our building commissioner and then has to get approvals from the various departments. It could be fire, DPW, water, wastewater, depending if it requires wastewater. That's typically the process of what it goes. But we do need to review and look at our water rules and regulations.
Thank you. And then just to reiterate, just to make sure I have this correct, no projects are being able to tie in at the moment unless they're currently approved. Is that correct?
Yes, I think at our last council meeting, it specifically said during the water emergency declaration, we're not allowing any new tie-ins for non-approved projects. When we say approved projects, it's gone through a planning board process or something like that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Would any members of the public like to provide any input or suggestions on this policy?
I think this is Jean DiBattista once again, 260 Lakeside Drive. Can you hear me? Yes. Everything. Thank you all for having us all tonight. We appreciate it. I think this is a very important point. I think it hasn't been handled well in the past, and I think it's obvious that there's improvement needed here. And I think it's partially responsible for where we find ourselves today. Because I think this extends beyond water. I think it extends to other critical infrastructure and services in Bridgewater that we're also finding to not have adequate resources. And obviously, Justin, you weren't here until a few months ago, so I'm not pointing the finger at you at this time. about a year from now. No, just kidding. Anyway, the problem here is it's not unique to Bridgewater. We want to move forward. We want to have progress. We want to see new things built. We want to move forward as a community. But I don't think we've looked at the cost of doing that, the real cost of what we do when we add large users of water. And we do go through a planning board process. It doesn't concern water. It's more focused on, whether or not there's lights on the property, whether or not there's any violations of the conservation restrictions, whether or not how big the building's going to be, how far set it's going to be, back. It doesn't talk about this type of thing. And recently, the planning board made it very clear that they don't consider this to be their responsibility. It's also not currently their responsibility, from everything I've seen from attending many of their meetings this year, to look at the impact to the rest of the infrastructure and the critical services in Bridgewater by adding a large project to what we're already currently doing in a specific area. There is a specific set of rules that they're specifically following. However, it does not include the things we're talking about with water tonight. They always refer us to the DPW, and that is appropriate. However, I don't think in the DPW that we have a sufficient process that really recognizes where we are and how bad things are in Bridgewater with its water. It's kind of ironic that we have water in our name. But, so I really think a very defined process needs to be put in place. I really think that we need to have a way of evaluating these large projects. I will tell you that the public was vastly disturbed, and I personally am still vastly disturbed by the fact that we allowed a developer to use a special permit from 1988 called the McNeil Special Permit that should have expired according to both what I believe to be local and state law many, many years ago. That particular agreement allows a specific developer to have 100,000 gallons per day of water in total, and 100,000 gallons per day of sewer water in total. But that agreement, the current status of what's going on in Bridgewater, even the current characteristics of the projects being proposed by that developer they're not even remotely related to what was in that special permit. And I will tell you that citizens and I, which include I, have gone to both the state and local level to try to understand why Bridgewater is allowing this. We have not been able to get the information that we've requested. We should have transparency in our town. We should be able to get that information. It doesn't make any sense. So I really think that points to the fact that there should and is not right now sufficient oversight for what we're allowing certain committees to do and the reasons for them. I think it's super important that we have transparency in our town, and this is something, Justin, we asked you for as well, and you referred us to the planning board. However, the planning board itself did not have access to this information when the public was asking about it during the last year. So we don't know why this is being allowed. We have asked repeatedly for that information, and we have not been able to get it. And I think we need transparency in our town. We need to know why we're allowing this. All the characteristics of this particular project have nothing to do with that particular agreement. The whole all projects are 100% changed, and yet we're allowing the developer to only submit site plans. It makes absolutely no sense, and there is no transparency. And this is an example of where a town can go wrong, okay? Because the problem here is we're allowing this developer to use an agreement that's close to 36, 37 years ago, when everything has changed in our town and every part of their project has changed. Why? And the public has asked why, and we have not gotten the answer. and we really need to know. And we, all of us here in Bridgewater, need more transparency, and we need clear rules or regulations that enforce transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I take a minute, Johnny?
Yeah?
Thank you very much for that. I agree with most of what you say. I think part of our problem is what was mentioned at the very beginning, by the person sitting one chair away from you. We have not had a water and sewer commission. We have not had a water and sewer board. We have not had anyone watching these problems for, I would say, at least 10 years. I was town clerk for 9 years, and at the beginning of my town clerkship was when the water and sewer board started all leaving. And we haven't had them. We haven't had a place like the planning board, which does a fabulous job for the things that they are assigned to do. We have had no place that has been assigned to take care of the water and sewer from that kind of a level, from a citizen level. We've been missing that. We need that. We need to fix that. So thank you for speaking about it.
I also wanted to thank you for speaking about that. I also think you had come up with a really good suggestion, I can't tell you how long ago at this point, but an environmental committee, because it's all about the environment too. Once the environment goes, besides the infrastructure, we're not a great place to live, work, or play. So all that development over there with a 1988 special permit doesn't make sense to me either. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. And as a neighbor, Gene, it's something that I'm going to be looking into and have been looking into as well. So I'll update you as I find out more information. Mrs. Jewell, did you want to come up?
Donna Jewell, 50 Keith Place. I would like to see if somebody could explain the current process and procedure we undergo now before we issue a building permit. What it has been for the last 6 months and what it is now that we've been under a state DEP water emergency. I don't know what that procedure is, whether it be for a single-family home or a commercial development. If somebody could explain how we determine that the project qualifies for water and that we have enough to fulfill that, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Justin, are we able to go over that process tonight?
We won't do it tonight. We can put it on the agenda. We'll have it, we'll talk with our team and we'll put that out there for you guys so you
All
understand.
right, sounds good.
All right, couldn't hear that.
Justin's going to address it, what you said on an agenda item in a future meeting, or have it out?
I want to reiterate, I think, just so we're all clear, that in part of our discussion with the council president in doing this is for the public to provide policy input, right? And so we're not prepared to have our staff answer direct questions at this meeting. We're going to get this information. We're going to follow up. We're going to put these on future council agendas. So
Is it better that I submit a public records request for that policy? Because I might not be at the next meeting. Honestly, with all due respect to everybody here, I've been to meetings, and that's going to be one of my questions tonight. I ask questions at the meeting. I know they can't always be answered, and then we don't get answers at the next meeting in our public comments. I mean, it's a communication issue, and I think lack of response creates frustration. And I think we have people sitting in this room that know whether they signed off on something or they didn't sign off, and what has been that sign-off procedure up until today, and what will it be going forward for tomorrow. We're under a water emergency. This is public safety. This is fire safety. This is health. I don't understand why we can't get an answer today on what the permits in the last month, what has been the policy we followed.
So Donna, that policy has been the same, so we can talk about that policy, but I think I was very clear in terms of the water emergency declaration. We're not allowing any new tie-ins for non-approved projects.
Okay.
So I think.
So there won't be any tie-ins until we're out of the emergency?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
said that multiple times, and I said that this evening, too.
I didn't understand it. So if we have a project, let's say, goes up on Bedford Street, they can build a project, they'll get a permit, but they can't tie into the water until we're out of the emergency. Is that correct?
Unapproved projects, yes.
Can you explain non-approved? Because I don't know what that is.
As well, so if a project has to go before the planning board and so forth, if it's gone through a planning board process already, that technically is an approved project. It may not have had permits issued for it just yet. It has to go through that process, and our team will review those, review that. We have a water impact study. We obviously have our building department, DPW. We have fire, et cetera. It has to go through that typical process. That isn't changing. But for non-approved projects, right now, we're not allowing any new tines until we resolve the water emergency declaration.
Okay, so those would include the water impact studies by the consultant?
Correct. We have a water
before they're approved?
We do
Before
have
they're
water.
permitted, I should say.
Well, in terms of your question, let me just make sure I'm clarifying here. You're saying you won't have a permit until a water impact study is done, correct?
Right,
Moving
correct.
forward. That's part of our process in terms of updating rules and regulations. I think we need to be very clear about that. That hasn't always been the case.
Has
in
that been the
past.
case the last 90 days?
For every single project, I can't answer that.
Okay.
So we can follow up on that question.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a quick question. Broad Street is an approved project, correct? Just checking.
Okay. So we are going, Mr. Moore.
David Moore, 54 Flag Street. You talk about approved projects. The Broad Street project was never approved by the planning board. Excuse me. The Broad Street project was reviewed, it was heard by the planning board, but we've got to take a good look at the form-based zoning that was approved, because there was talk about skin in the game. At the last minute, there was a change in that form-based zoning. There was supposed to be a committee of, consisting of some Bridgewater residents, some town employees and so forth, to have some input in the review of the project. That would have happened in the case of the Broad Street project. Well, it didn't happen because that form-based committee was, the makeup of that committee was changed in the, I don't know what you call it, the 11th hour or whatever, that residents were taken off of that, and that committee consists of our CED office. You talk about skin in the game. We had residents, skin in the game, now we have none. And that's the group that approved the Broad Street project. So there is a serious need. It was all done legally. It was all, everything was done by the rules. But we've got to take a good hard look at those rules, because those rules do not involve residents all the time.
Thank you for that, Mr. Moore. And so now that we have MBTA compliance under our belts, one of the things that we're doing is, my commitment is to review the form-based code and to review zoning laws at the council level and obviously with the planning board. And so it's something that's we're going to be looking at, absolutely. Did you have something, Councilor Ellenberg?
Yes, I just wanted to say that Donna Jewell's comments in terms of the necessity of a water commission and procedure. What will be procedure? A water commission that is established can establish a procedure, and that will be transparent and open to everyone.
Thank you.
I think it ultimately depends on what Mr. Hunt said in terms of the role of that commission. If they're advisory, you can listen to their advice or not listen to their advice.
Well, it's currently in front of our town councilor, and it currently gives that power to the Water Commission, and we would hopefully get qualified residents to serve on that.
Thank you. So yes, please. So someone behind you has their hand up. Did you want to come up? Yes, please. Oh, no, you're going to come in.
Pat Hart on Conant Street. One of the things that I've been concerned about for a while is on Winter Street. A new development has just been street, cul-de-sac, the whole thing, which actually butts up right up to Carver Pond. And Carver Pond is one of the major wells. Wellfleet is right there. There's a buffer zone where the pumping station is right there. And now it's been approved for homes to go in that cul-de-sac. And I've been asking for 2 years why Winter Street has not been paved. Winter Street is full of holes, bumps. When you go through it and it rains, I mean, you don't know if you're hitting a bump and it's going to tear your tire apart. But we have enough to put a whole new cul-de-sac down there, right up against our pumping stations. So yes, I'm very concerned, considering that Carver Ponds PFAS is one of the highest around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, would those houses be on sewer or septic?
I'm not familiar with the project. We could,
Because septic would be bad for our water.
we'd have to look into that.
There is no sewer.
There's no sewer there?
It's all septic tank.
That's septic. Yeah.
So to wrap up the water.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
I believe there's an update on the paving of Winter Street, because I know we've been discussing moving telephone poles to accommodate that. So I don't know if we could share just an update on where that's going.
Yep, we've provided that information. I know the council approved the movement of the poll hearings to allow us to do the work to pave Winter Street. That's part of the work that we will be putting out to bid for the spring to get that work done. And that was approved when you guys approved the poll hearing for us to allow to proceed with that work.
And then, as the resident mentioned, we'll follow up on, the safety of having that work done, close to the wells. I'm not familiar with how close the cul-de-sac is to the wells over there, but I imagine there's plenty of room over there. I'm sure that went into consideration. So we'll wrap up item A here. There were a lot of other questions, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we'll get those questions answered. I'm just going to fire off some real quick ones just so that people know that they were heard. There was a question about alternate water sources. Which ones have we identified? We spoke about that earlier in the meeting. We mentioned a potential connection to Brockton. We mentioned wells at Vernon Street. We mentioned collaborating with Stiles and Hart. So those are some potential sources, and there are other conversations that our departments are having. Somebody asked if High Street treatment plant is equipped to handle the current levels of iron and manganese. We discussed that at a previous council meeting, and the answer to that is yes. So we are confident that the High Street treatment plant will be able to handle the iron and manganese coming over from 10A and 10B. Another question is about how will the emergency interconnection to Middleborough be paid for. We'll discuss that later on in our regular council meeting, but it's going to be a combination of a grant that we're applying for that was opened up for us, that was earmarked for us, as well as some potential loan servicing to address that. So those are some of the easier questions to answer that were asked. So I wanted to just respect the people that asked those questions and then and have those answered. Did I get all that right over there, Justin?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, and we've mentioned that in some of the preceding meetings. It's the $2 million grant that we are going through the process to apply for. That will play a large part of that project is associated to do the Middleborough work, the construction, and as well as the procurement of that water.
Thank you. And then one last one, somebody asked about flushing. We're going to be performing some flushing once we get that Middleborough connection. We're going to try to fill up those the storage tanks, and then over time, as part of the long-term master plan for our water, once we do have the capacity, we would obviously want to implement a regular flushing protocol as part of maintaining our water system. We're not there yet, but it's something that we're certainly working towards. We also have plans for a treatment trailer, which is going to also increase capacity. So that is all being worked on. And again, the questions that weren't answered tonight, we're going to do our best to get those answers out to you as soon as possible.
Just a final question. When does the 90-day clock officially start?
I believe once the connection begins.
Correct. Once the water is flowing, that's when the 90-day starts.
And do we have an anticipated?
We'll discuss that at the water update at the next council meeting.
I have one thing, Johnny. Could I say one thing? This is the new Bridgewater Department Water System Master Plan for 2024. It's very easy than the 500 one. It's the most comprehensive plan I've read from the environmental partners. I believe, Justin, that you hired them?
Yes, the town procured environmental partners to do that work.
So
2024.
I've read the other ones, but this one talks about each well, what's the withdrawal, the price of it. It's even what pipes are made out of. So it's online, right, under the water department or under you?
It's under the water department.
Yeah,
As we
so-
transition to the website, we can provide a direct link to it because we have obviously gotten a lot of questions about the water. But that is one of our guideposts for a lot of the water capital that we do. A lot of the work that we're doing is addressed in that capital.
I could completely understand everything that it was talked about, and I was amazed at how much information, because they've done other work, but this is the most clear, in detailed, on every well, every street and pipe. So I recommend that you guys read this one. It's extremely informative.
Thank you. So next up, we have growth, zoning, and development. The policy suggestions which were mentioned, which was to conduct a review of the CED oversight process to ensure development aligns with capacity, that already kind of came up naturally in our previous discussion. The other policy suggestion that was brought up here on this list was to use water capacity and the declared water emergency to justify stopping large-scale projects and tie-ins. We've mentioned that we are not allowing any new tie-ins for unapproved projects. So those were the main policy suggestions which were brought forward to us. But if anybody has any comments or additional policies or suggestions on the topics of growth, zoning, or development, please come up at this time.
Evening, James Walsh, 60 Crescent Street. First, I wanted to thank you again for this forum. I think this has really been a great opportunity and kind of exchange so far. I wanted to mention how much I'm looking forward to the zoning review that we do of all of our ordinances and maps and whatnot. I think I agree that that's long overdue. I think there's a lot of places where we can tighten that up and make some improvements to reflect how the town has changed. But I wanted to go through a couple of other I wanted to go through another few suggestions I might have to keep in mind as we go through that review. And I'll start with a few observations that I've made both through listening to others talk during these forums and also just observing how development has played out over the past few decades. One is that, a gentleman in one of the December meetings mentioned the cost of community services study. I took an opportunity to read that. That was done in 2009 by the University of California, and we use it as part of our CPA applications. And it's really, really interesting. And I know we've had a lot of conversations back and forth about what are the different types of land use and what is essentially the ROI. How much do we get back in tax revenue versus the cost? And it was really insightful. And what it shows across the board, regardless of density, size, anything like that, is that residential development always costs something. Like it's a sugar rush of new tax revenue, but in the end, it always costs more in community services than it does dollar for dollar in tax revenue. And so the critical piece, of course, you can't have a town with no houses, and we can't just stop growth altogether, but the critical piece is kind of balancing that out and balancing it with land use that does make money. So commercial, open space, agricultural, I think, none of that's too shocking to us. But it reinforced a couple things for me. I think even as we've focused a lot on commercial development, we have that great new development down on 18, the Ace Hardware with the self-storage. We've preserved a bunch of the Hanson farm to prevent hundreds of housing units from going there. But even with that, I think we're still out of balance. And there's a couple things I'll also mention. According to the census, Bridgewater has over 1,000 people per square mile, which puts us in the top tier by far out of all of our neighbors. So we have about double the density of West Bridgewater and Middleborough, or about 40% denser than Rainham. And if you look for a peer in our area, it's really Taunton. We're about 18% below Taunton, and they're kind of our closest in the region. So we have an incredible amount of density that we're already supporting. And when we talk about the housing crisis and kind of the pressure on different towns to support, I just want us to take a moment to reflect on that we are doing our part. We're doing more than our part compared to our peers, and we're offering a lot of housing. But unlike Taunton, we don't have, half of their budget is state aid. We don't have that luxury. We don't have the support that they do. And how did we get here, and what can we do about it? I think our zoning ordinance is really what got us into this problem, and it's our only way out. I believe in smart growth. I know, a town will die if we don't have any sort of growth in town, but I think there's a way to do it where we're not overly permissive of the sort of high-density residential growth that we've incentivized for decades. I want to read something briefly, a very brief excerpt that the Bridgewater Planning Board wrote to the town back in 1985. They say, "If growth continues at this pace, we will tax our ability to handle it. Schools, roads, and other town services will be in need of increasing amounts of money just to keep the quality of services at what they are now. At the same time, and perhaps even more important, we will probably see the character of our town change for the worse. The Planning Board is not against growth. We only hope that growth progresses on a scale and pace that we can control. It should be understood by the town that the Planning Board cannot simply disapprove a subdivision because we don't want to see more homes in the town. We are bound by specific laws. But some of those laws could be amended or other actions taken if we all become involved and attempt to work out a process." That was 40 years ago, but it really feels like something that could be written today. I think we've waited a little too long to act on this, and I'm really looking forward to us reducing it, reducing the density that we permit, and give the Planning Board some teeth to be able to actually turn down some of these developments that we've seen really strain our ability to provide services. And the third observation is just that we also have to plan for what's coming next. In the past several years, we've done several zoning changes, and all of them have increased residential density. Form-based code, there was, I believe, an overlay. There was also the village housing amendment. All of these are good in different ways, but they increase density. And on top of that, the playing field has changed from the state. I know we're all familiar with MBTA Communities Act. We've been told that we now have increased our housing production potential by 1,400 units, but we could debate how much of that we'll actually see, but even a fraction of that is immense. But the other thing we haven't really talked too much about is the accessory dwelling unit law, which will allow many single-family homeowners to add an additional dwelling unit either in their own home or as a separate building, about 10 feet away from their neighbor. Bridgewater has 5,800 single-family homes. Obviously, not all of them will qualify for this, and not everyone will do it. But let's say in 10 years, just 25% of those homes do it. That's 2,000 more housing units that we will have in our town that we haven't accounted for in any of our planned development or studies or anything like that. So I just raise these to say that, when we look at zoning regulations, our zoning regulations and our residential zones, as they were written for a town that I really don't think exists anymore. Some of these date from 60 years ago. The ability to add duplexes, to have, a minimum amount of square footage per dwelling unit of 10,000 feet in some areas. These date back to when we had about half the population and when we were trying to figure out how to squeeze in between all the farmland. That's all been built up now. It really just seems out of date. So I hope we'll consider really radically re-examining residential C and residential D in particular, and perhaps tightening up, increasing the minimum square footage per dwelling unit, maybe even folding those into residential B, just to reflect the reality that we're in now. I hope also with the advent of ADUs, we'll reconsider if we want to allow duplexes at all in any of our zones. Essentially every single family lot is now essentially could be a duplex. So do we still want to offer that? So those are just a couple things I think I hope we'll consider as we look into all of that. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. This is kind of a question. I don't know if Justin, you know, or if our CD director knows. Do we know, is there enough historical data to show that where ADUs by right being implemented in other states and communities, does it increase population? Does it put a strain on resources? Something that I've wondered, because part of me is saying maybe there's a grandparent that lives in the home and this is just a more comfortable situation for them, and it's not necessarily going to increase population. But there's certainly a concern that we're just going to have more people moving into accessory dwelling units. Is there any data behind that we're aware of at this time?
Sure, you follow up and add as a discussion item and take a look at if there's any data regarding there. Obviously, we have our CD department and our building commissioner, so I think that's something we can take a look at.
Yeah, and if we have any data on how many we've had come up in town since it became a right last year, it'd be helpful to know what a potential trajectory is. Okay, so do we have anybody from the public? Yeah, sure. Growth, zoning, and development.
Good evening. My name's Pat Neary, 225 Lakeside Drive. I wanted to bring up my question that I had submitted earlier. And our Conservation Commission and our Planning Board plan to update their regulations. Our area of critical environmental concern, as well as our Aquifer Protection Overlay District, must be addressed. And this is probably something for Mr. Rulli. I think that when they do that, I would like to see some public participation, because some of the residents, such as James Walsh, know more about regulations than people on those boards. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that. And I would like to see Attorney Rollins pay attention to some of these questions, because he is the final authority on a lot of the decisions for our town. And I don't know that he's heard any of that tonight. So maybe we can change that. I don't know. And I think that's all for this category. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you. The Aquifer Protection Overlay District, whose purview is that under?
Conservation.
Conservation, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilor Ellenberg, did you have something on that?
I just wanted to say, I think that would be the purview of a water commission as well.
Okay.
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. Quick comment on development. I drive out on Pleasant Street to go south many times. There's 5 acres out there that are in a commercial area that have sat for years and years and years. What is the CED department doing to attract commercial development to that location? That's a question that's operational. The other policy is, the question is basically, what can we do to get more commercial in town from a policy perspective? Thank you.
Thank you.
Come back.
I know that Councilor Murphy and Justin had that discussion on Mary's podcast the other day, and there were some good ideas there. It's something that we're always looking into, is attracting commercial development. So we're definitely looking into that. What's that?
It was quite a few years ago. There was some really good potential out there, and then things changed, and we haven't seen anything happen with it since then. So it really seems like a great place to have something happen. And people can come in right off of the highway, use it, go back out. They don't have to live in Bridgewater. We get the benefit of it. So anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a big facility sitting on Route 18 that's empty. Okay? Personally, I don't know if it's big enough. Data center. It's going every place else. It provides jobs. Okay, the problem with that, though, is we can't get the True Value hooked up to the transformer with National Grid. Our electrical grid in this community is old. It needs to be upgraded. I've never had more failures in my life than since I moved to this town, because when the wind blows the wrong way, the power goes out. So we only have one. We only have National Grid. That's not the supplier, but the electric company. We got all sorts of suppliers and all sorts of charges. Highest bills in the area, my bill's double what it was in Brockton for the same size house. So we got a lot of work to do with that. I'm anxious. I'll have to take a listen to the podcast. But, I mean, we got a big building. They killed all the trees off, and it's sitting there, just sitting there. Let's get the businesses that are open filled before we build more.
Okay, so we're going to move up. Last one.
It's Mark Peterson, 43 Church Street. The Aquifer Protection Overlay District is under the purview of zoning and the building department, not conservation.
Okay. We could hash that out, or
We can follow up. It's conservation, but as
not
long as
conservation.
zoning.
It's zoning.
okay. All right, we'll now move into Item C, which is fiscal policy. Again, there were a number of questions and policy suggestions that were submitted. So the first one that we have here is to review and increase the commercial real estate tax rate and bring it more in line with the surrounding communities. So we recently did set the tax rate at a recent council meeting. I don't know if it was the most recent one or the one before that. And we did discuss that, and there was a lengthy presentation by our assessor's office. And we did come to a decision to keep it at a flat rate for this year. It didn't seem to make sense to split the rate at this time, only because the residents would receive, I think if we began a small split, it would be around a $60 benefit to the residents over a year. So we're talking about $5 a month, and it would cost the commercial tenants, or rather owners, hundreds of dollars per month. And we didn't see the benefit in burdening the commercial tenants, particularly, or I keep saying tenants, owners, particularly small businesses who would potentially feel that impact, to save people a nominal amount of money. But it is something that could be beneficial in the future if we do have more commercial development. Right now, I think it sits about 15%, and if we do split that rate, as it stands right now, it doesn't have a huge relief to the residents that we would like to see. But if anybody would like to come up and speak to this further, please come on up.
Lincoln Andrews, 28 Sachem Street. I've been in your seats to set the tax rate, and we had a big split. Business paid a lot more than residents, and we brought it down closer. Bridgewater now is skewed, as you were just saying, more towards the business. And I, as a business owner, as I stated a couple of weeks ago, I have no problems with paying a few $100s more on my tax bill to help Bridgewater. As I said, Bridgewater has been overtaxing me on the 5 acres of land that was just taken by to add to Stiles and Hart's open space land. And as I said last time, and I want to reiterate it again, that was all underneath forestry. When it was taken 38 years ago, the Assessors Department severed off the 5 acres that we wanted to keep, that Bridgewater now has, and then they put us into the commercial rate out of forestry. And I ended up paying, for the last 38 years, more money for the 5 acres than I did for the entire lot. I never came back looking for an abatement, not once. And I felt it was just a civic duty to go ahead and pay it, and I felt it to be a privilege. And I would find it hard to believe that a business needs, not so much my company, but in my opinion, local businesses need to have a thriving local populace in order to provide increased business to them in what they're doing.
Thank you.
I have a question for the town manager. We have 2 very large state institutions in town. The college uses our water. We have commercial and residential, but perhaps a new category of institutional charges could be established. And a third category of institutional, and therefore we would make some of the money back that is expended at the college. Is that possible?
It's not possible. We've had this discussion multiple times. These are entities that aren't taxed typically. I think one of the questions was, especially with the water, for example, to have a different rate for larger institutions. The council made that decision when you set the new water rates that we did this. We increased the water rates and the wastewater rates for larger users like BSU, et cetera. But there isn't a capability to have a tax for BSU or different things like that. It's not possible. You guys have discussed that, I think.
Yeah, we can't set a property tax, but we can obviously recoup money from the water, right, of course, and as user fees, and as Justin said, we did approve earlier, or rather towards the end of last year, new water rates, and they are being charged at a higher rate due to having larger connections, and they are our biggest customer of water.
Not even last year. You guys did it this year, because I was here part of it.
Oh, it's for this year. Yes, yeah, for this current year.
Correct.
Yes, and I think that's something we need to look at in the future.
We don't have to necessarily get money from them. We could possibly get some of the state land that we could use for our community to do different things. Perhaps there's water on some of that land as well. The other thing is, I applaud Mr. Andrews for talking about being able to pay more. Part of our discussion had to do with small businesses, okay? And paying a couple $100 may or may not be an issue. A lot of other communities have a split rate. There's a lot of work involved in it. Shelley told us to do it is going to require a lot of work. It should be at least looked into to see what that is, and then, you know, you'd have to have, I don't know, maybe a small business rate and a larger business rate, but
Yes.
we need money. That's something we can get it at. If it's going to save the average taxpayer $60, I get it. Maybe it isn't worth doing all that work. But if it's going to give us additional revenue for our schools, for our water infrastructure, for our sewer infrastructure, we got to look at it at some point. I appreciated the 1985 information right now, talking about 40 years later. The we've always done it this way doesn't work. Let's look at other sources of revenue.
Yeah, it's something that came up, and we'll have to work through this thoroughly, was to have a split rate, but then have some sort of, how do you want to say, exemption for smaller businesses. So that's something that I think we would probably all be in favor of, and I think that requires a considerable amount of work. So we could look into implementing that, at the next cycle, but the work kind of begins on that now. So we're throwing it out there, and anything that we need to do, we could start to get that done. Justin, do you have anything on that?
Obviously, we want to give residents their time to talk about the policy thing, but I think it's important to also set the framework correctly. You can shift the burden of the tax burden or have a shift rate. It doesn't lead to more revenue. The revenue remains the same. The tax levy remains the same. So you're not going to get additional revenue. You're just changing the levy associated with a residential, commercial, industrial. You have a board of assessors actually that gave you, it's not just our chief assessor. The town has a board of assessors. We have volunteers who give recommendations on that. They gave the recommendation to the council, and obviously that's your purview. You have the right to talk about that. That's the policy discussions we're talking about. But they gave the recommendation not to split the rate either. So I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Thank you. So next, we're going to, and again, there were some questions here, and in the interest of time, we'll have those questions answered in the future, hopefully shortly after this meeting. But a lot of those questions were already answered in our kind of discussions here regarding residential tax bills and a split rate. So we'll now move into item D, which is governance and oversight. There are some policy suggestions from residents, and we'll open the floor to come up to speak on these. So there was a suggestion to impose residency requirements for key senior leadership positions such as the town manager, assistant town manager, police, fire chiefs, DPW, finance, CIO, parks and rec. So if anybody would like to come up and speak to this one. I know you'd submit this one, MJ, so I was looking at you.
Yeah. Mr. President, members of the council, residents in attendance, good evening. MJ Spagone, 5 Lakeshore Center, Unit 1128. As you alluded to, Mr. President, there are actually several items that I probably put on there that you'll most likely, I'm guessing you probably have on there to ask for commentary on, and I would be more than happy to provide that right now. First and foremost, the residency restriction. Being a resident of this community, having lived here 40 years, having as some folks have used the term, skin in the game, I have had a considerable amount of that over the 20 years that I've been in public service, and I take that in great appreciation. The genesis for this proposal, this residency restriction that would call for the appointment of these executive leadership positions to become residents of the town, is in response to the general commentary in the public sphere where residents in various spaces, whether it be Facebook groups or conversation groups or in general out on the street, tend to have a negative opinion towards public officials. And for whatever reason they have that, I think in an olive branch towards enhancing the ability of a employee to stay with the town and to retain their talents. We want them to be involved in the town. We want them to be a part of the fabric of the community. So to have this residency restriction allows the town the opportunity to see that not only is the town of Bridgewater going to invest in this individual to be part of our executive leadership, but they're going to be a part of the community. They're going to be living here. They're going to be a resident. They're going to be a taxpayer. They're going to be commuting here in town. They're going to be more closely associated with the town of Bridgewater, not just as an official, but as a townie and a resident among us. And I think that's vitally important. And I think it also builds goodwill with the officials. And tangentially, the terms of office, that item, which I think we can approach that too. So for folks that may not have read that part, the term of office, typically town managers and town administrators are usually small terms of office, 2 to 3 years, sometimes 4 years. My proposal calls for it to be 5 years. This allows a town manager not only time to get acclimated to the town of Bridgewater, how it operates, how its history has played out, what are some of the more intimate issues associated with some of our problems, water, zoning, infrastructure improvements, whatnot. This allows them to stay longer. This encourages them to stay, and this gives us an opportunity to keep them. Public service is unfortunately one of those industries that seems to become a revolving door as days go by. I've worked in multiple municipalities. My terms of office have been mostly 4 years. I've left after 4 or 5. But I think for our leadership, to maintain bureaucratic memory, to maintain continuity of governance, I think that's an important aspect to have. And if that were to be something that would be put into place, there is a stipulation in this proposal to allow that first 5-year term to be extended to whoever is in current leadership at this time, and that their contract after negotiation would be negotiated through an extension of that 5 years, effectively making them 8 years, which would be great. And, it's not often that you have a town manager here for 10 years. Michael Dutton was an aberration when it comes to being a person in charge of the town of Bridgewater. Most of our town administrators, I did the math, in the last 20 years, we've had 7. That brings it down to a total of maybe 2 to 3 years. It's time that the town of Bridgewater have consistent leadership for a longer period of time to build trust with all of our fellow residents and taxpayers, because that's what we want, that's what we need, and that's what we deserve. We need consistent leadership, and we deserve consistent leadership on that. And I think you may probably also move into this one also, if I may indulge the council, Mr. President. When Councilor Lindy actually referenced a data center, this is kind of a response to it, but it is also an item that I actually spoke to Councilor McGrath on a podcast, so shameless plug there. But the ban on the use of advanced intelligence or language learning models in the use of by any employee or by a department in town government. At no point in a town's operation should a decision ever be made by a computer. It should always have a human hand and human intervention in it. My proposal called for a total ban on the use of advanced intelligence, quote unquote, language learning models or language learning systems, because those systems, as we have now seen in the wild, are heavily unrestricted, have total factual errors, can cause bigger problems. You need not look further than some serious issues with Windows 11. If you're a Windows 11 user, you know that your computer is likely going to be bricked by some of their updates, because 35% of their software is now updated as an AI model, and that causes problems with Windows. So we don't need that happening in town. So to have a collective ban on that, not to use Copilot, ChatGPT, Bamboo HR's ATS system, or any ATS suite for that matter. There should at no point in the governance of the town of Bridgewater, in the interest of the taxpayers, both on safety, money, factuality of information, and accuracy of all details, ban the AI usage. That way we can protect that. The other item, if I may indulge you further, came up actually during a finance committee meeting. Full disclosure, I am chairwoman of the finance committee. So this is something that we had heard about, a proposal to do a study of several of our cemeteries for cleaning and improvement of the tombstones. And I came to learn that there's no cemetery commission in the town of Bridgewater. A lot of communities, similar to Bridgewater, have cemetery commissions. What they do is they observe and detail what needs to be addressed in cemeteries throughout a municipality. Sometimes they're under the DPW, sometimes they're under Park and Rec, sometimes they're a mix. So what I called for was the formation of a cemetery commission that would be consistent with the town manager or their designee as an ex officio, DPW director, Park and Rec director, one citizen with conservation preservation background, and one citizen with a financial background. While there are residents in our town who are no longer with us, their memories deserve to be preserved for future generations and for family members. And to know where your loved one or your best friend is laid to rest, it's vitally important. And these cemetery commissions help preserve those cemeteries and to make sure that they are well cared for, and can also help maintain perpetual care funds. That's something that is vitally important to the preservation. And also, because cemeteries are open space, it helps preserve open space. So that's another good facet of it. And then the last one here, I'm going to, again, ask for your indulgence if it's okay, Mr. President. This one is sort of a selfish one, I suspect, as chair of the Finance Committee, that I wanted to note that as the committee is outlined in the charter, we are an advisory group of 9 residents. And our committee's role is part of the budget process in general financial matters, but they're limited. My request is to try to update the charter so that it more fulsomely describes and explains exactly what the financial committee, and that would be one part of it, what the financial committee's roles, responsibilities, what our exact tasks need to be, what they should be, and how we operate. And also to change the name of the committee itself from the Financial Committee to the Finance Committee. There's a lot of confusion. In the charter, it lists us as financial. In the administrative code, it's finance. In all of our documents, it's listed as Finance Committee. When a person just reads the charter on first blush, when they hear there's a Finance Committee, well, then what's the Financial Committee? It almost makes it sound like it's a prudential committee, which for nomenclature purposes, it can be a bit of confusion for some folks if they're not really well versed in municipal finance. This would be a measure to reduce that confusion and to also at least demonstrate that the Finance Committee does still have authority. We are a successive body from the advisory board when they changed form of government. So it's vitally important that the roles and responsibilities that the advisory board had, the Finance Committee can still pick them up, inherit them, and work with them. And I think also, to an extent of that, Mr. President, I did actually send a message to you last night after our Finance Committee meeting, and I think folks probably, if they have a chance to watch it, I would suggest they do so, because this was actually one of the major cruxes of our discussions last night, because now that we have a full count of 9 members, we're looking forward to doing a lot more work and to be able to actually be the advisory and ministerial committee that we are constitutionally required to be. And I think that's probably one of the biggest parts here. But outside of that, I really do hope you explore the residency restriction, the term limit idea, and also, definitely importantly, the advanced intelligence or AI ban. Because I think with these, creating efficiencies in government is absolutely crucial to how the town of Bridgewater operates now and in the future. So with that, I'll yield back, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any councilors have any comments?
Definitely.
Sure.
Appreciate all the good input. I came from a residency community. It isn't a good idea. Safety for your police officials, they modified it. It was a voter-approved thing in the 90s. It's been a black cloud hanging over everybody's head in Brockton, okay? We're elected. We live here. So does the school committee. So does the library trustees. Officials, you limit your pool, okay? We went through this with the town manager selection process, okay? Sometimes you have more independence when you don't live in the community. Our town manager lives 15 minutes away from here. I think we can get rapid response. I didn't want to see one that was an hour away like we used to have, okay? But that is something we should carefully look into. And I couldn't tell you right now, because I don't know details, personnel details. I don't know where all of our employees live. We know a lot of them live in Bridgewater, but to limit the executive's residency, or the police chief's residency, or the library director's residency, Brockton's been trying to deal with it since the 90s. It's a mess. We lucked out. We got Shane from Brockton for the planning department because he was a great planner over in Brockton, and Brockton said after he worked there for a year, they said, see you, bye. You don't live here anymore. Okay? But it was our gain. I don't want it to be our loss. So, just my 2 cents.
Very good points. Anything, councilors? Yeah, come on up.
So I did actually account for that, Councilor Lindy. My proposal actually called for, if they couldn't find residency, that there would be a process of exemption. And also the restriction would be if they couldn't find a place to reside in Bridgewater after a year, they could get a residency exemption from 2/3 simple majority of the town council. So I want to make sure I clarified that for you.
I'm glad you did, but the exemptions in Brockton became a very political process. It wasn't the council's choice, it was the mayor's choice.
Fortunately, we don't have a mayor, so that takes that part out of it.
It needs to really be carefully studied.
Of course. So that's why I put it out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from councilors on this one, governance and oversight?
We are
5 of, yeah.
6 minutes away from
I want to address a couple of things that were just brought up with some other ideas. How do we get this down now?
I apologize. Pardon me.
Okay.
I know people are finding me annoying. I apologize.
Oh, sure. All right, Jean D. Batista, 260 Lakeside Drive. I wanted to address 2 of the things that were brought up. One was residency. I think that would limit our talent pool. I think that is a problem. I think a better solution than residency would be to look at the objectives that we give our town managers and make sure they map to what our residents and what our community needs. I think these objectives are very important. They're what incentivize our town managers and also any other town personnel where the council has that type of influence. So that's my opinion on that. Second thing I want to talk about is generative AI, which you brought up. Generative AI is everywhere. Generative AI is not going away. I actually have a compliance background, so I'm familiar with the pros and cons of generative AI. And my opinion is that you need a guidance program for the use of generative AI. You do not want to ban it because that's next to impossible. It is basically now being embedded in pretty much everything. So rather than try to deny what's happening in our culture and our future, we need to make sure that we have processes in place to ensure that generative AI is used properly. I do agree with you on that. I also agree it can have hallucinations, it can be inaccurate, but it also can provide tremendous benefit. So we just need to make sure that we have the right guidance and right compliance programs in place to deal with generative AI. Thank you.
Thank you. We are coming up to our regularly scheduled council meeting, so do any other residents have any further input on governance and oversight? And if not, we are going to take items E and F as discussion items at our next, not this next one in 5 minutes, but our next council meeting. You have my commitment to do that. A lot of residents submitted some really great questions and input on the next topics would be intergovernmental and institutional impacts and environmental protection. We did touch upon those things a little bit tonight, but in the interest of time, we are going to just move those to discussion items to a following meeting. So if anybody has anything last to bring up for governance and oversight? Last call on that.
President Loretti, can I take 1 second?
Sure.
To thank the people who have turned out for this tonight and who have participated and who have listened. I think that's really wonderful. And I want to thank all of the staff who've come here, and most of them didn't have a chance to say anything. They had to listen to everything, but I really appreciate it. I think it's good for the town staff to hear what the citizens have to say. And I'm hoping that this is going to have some positive effects for the town. So thank you all.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, everybody, for your input. Those who are here, obviously, and then those who submitted their questions, inquiries, and policy suggestions via email. We really appreciate it. We haven't done this in a long time, so I personally hope that you all received some benefit from this and some value, and that you found it productive. I know that I did, and we'll take all those suggestions and questions, and we're going to get back to those questions and answer them for you, as I had mentioned. And then these last two items, the E and F, we will have those as discussion items into the future. So with that being said, if no one has anything else, we will. I will rather entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned for our general public meeting. We're going to take let's call it a 5-minute recess. Well, not necessarily a recess, but we'll just take a 5-minute break. We'll start our council meeting between 7:05 and 7:10 for those who are going to stay for that meeting. Thank you. For those who are still in attendance, the time is now 7:17. I will call this meeting of the Bridgewater Town Council to order. We are going to rise once again for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This town council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube. Please go to the Town of Bridgewater Facebook page for the link. We do not have any condolences tonight from our veterans officer, but please join me in a moment of silence for all deceased veterans of Bridgewater and their families. Thank you. First up, we have item A, approval of minutes from previous meetings. Do I have a motion for approval and a second for discussion?
So moved. Second.
First, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item B, we have announcements from the president. I have a couple of things from our town clerk's office. For dog owners, 2026 license tags are due now, so please go ahead and make sure that you take care of that with our town clerk's office. Nomination papers are also available for the April 25th town election. Please see the town clerk's website for details. We have a number of positions that are available that are up for election, so please go ahead and throw your name in the hat if you're interested in serving on our board here or at the school board or the other positions that are available. The town census is also open as well, so please go ahead and fill that out. There are some grants that are tied to population data, so make sure that we collect everybody who is here in town. You can drop that off at Town Hall. There's a collection box. You can use the tax bill box or the election box to drop that in, so please make sure that you do that. And our former town clerk, did I get any of that wrong?
Oh, no, you're really right.
All right, great, excellent, cool. I want to make sure I had that correct. And that's all that I have this evening for announcements. Next, we have proclamations. We have the recognition of honoring Emily Stone, recipient of the Boston Post cane. I'm going to read the proclamation to the record, and then I'm going to pass this around to the counselors to please sign. Whereas Emily Stone, a cherished member of the Bridgewater community, celebrated her 103rd birthday on September 24th, 2025. Whereas reaching the age of 103 makes Ms. Stone the oldest resident of Bridgewater, and her remarkable longevity, wisdom, and enduring spirit are a source of inspiration and pride to all who know her. And whereas the Boston Post cane was established in 1909 to honor the oldest living residents in New England communities and has long symbolized respect, resilience, and a lifetime of contribution. And whereas, as the oldest resident of Bridgewater, Ms. Stone has been duly recognized as the recipient of the Boston Post cane, an honor that reflects both her extraordinary life and her special place in the history of the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of Bridgewater, on behalf of its residents, extends its deepest congratulations and heartfelt best wishes to Ms. Emily Stone on the occasion of her receipt of the Boston Post cane, and proudly honors her as a beloved and remarkable member of the Bridgewater community. In witness thereof, this proclamation is presented with great admiration and celebration this 6th day of January 2026 in recognition of Ms. Emily Stone's exceptional longevity, life achievements, and lasting legacy in the town of Bridgewater. I'll ask my counselors to sign this, and then we'll get it over to Ms. Stone.
Senator Loretti, could I have a minute to read something that's maybe going to be interesting later on? Okay. It's just a statement by me. In June of 2025, my husband Carlton and I each signed the Massachusetts Disclosures of Appearance of Conflict Interest as required by General Law 268A 23B and 3, and we submitted them to our appointing authorities to be kept on record. At that point, I had decided and told the council I would abstain from voting on community preservation requests. As time has progressed, I have found it unsatisfactory to abstain from voting on CPA requests, particularly because abstentions are being interpreted as a negative vote. For that reason, I called the Massachusetts State Ethics Commission to confirm whether there were legal reasons I should not vote on request by the Community Preservation Committee. The state attorney clearly confirmed that there is no legal reason I should not vote on CPA requests. The only potential reason would be that I felt intimidated and afraid of my husband should I vote against his opinion. After 56 years of marriage, I can assure the council and the public that my husband has never and does not now control my votes. I'm ending my offer to abstain from voting on the CPA matters partially because of the determination that an abstention is counted as a no vote. I will vote my position on CPA and all other issues as they come before the council. Thanks.
Thank you. If the State Ethics Commission's okay with it, then it's okay by us. And I'm glad you don't feel intimidated at home. Next up, we'll move into citizen open forum. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Anyone may, at this time, come up and comment for up to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Really quick, I promise I don't want to print out for this one. James Walsh, 60 Crescent Street. Two things that just came to mind when we were talking earlier. I was hoping we could get an answer for next time. Sorry, not on. First was the status of the residential exemption. I know that was something we had talked about at one point earlier in the year, and I might have missed it over the course of the tax rate discussions, but if that was something we were still considering for next year, to give our owner-occupied residences a bit of a tax break. And the only other thing that came to mind was when we were talking about the differing tax rates, if there was any status, and maybe our CED department knows, on the old Baptist church over across from CVS. I know that's been closed for several years, and I wonder if that's maybe been considered, if there's been any pressure to turn that into something else, maybe like a restaurant like the one in Easton that leveraged an old church as well. Something to get that kind of on the tax rolls and off of the religious exemption, since I don't believe it would qualify any longer. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another one? Just one.
Would anyone else like to come up and speak?
No, just one.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any appointments or hearings or license transactions or presentations, so we'll now move into our town manager report.
We'll have our water superintendent give the water update. Just brief.
Good evening. Just a quick couple updates. We have finally gotten the approval plans of engineering for the Middleborough interconnection. It's been gone through Bridgewater, Middleborough, and now DEP. I'm glad to tell you that we are hopeful to start digging on Thursday. To start that process, we will be digging Thursday and Friday. Hopefully over the course of the weekend we'll be doing sampling, and early next week we will be activating that service. Part of that is we will be notifying the public. I have gotten permission to use the reverse 911 as well as post on the town website and the DPW website. Most of that is just going to be an idea of when the water is actually going to be turned on so customers can take out their in-home filters so we don't clog them up, as you will get some discoloration as we activate that line because of the reverse pressure and flow. Other than that, the long-term infrastructure projects, the treatment trailers, been working with engineering, logistics, permitting, conservation committee to start seeing the feasibility and the location of where those will sit on the property of well 10. Wells 10A and 10B piping to the High Street facility. We have DPW department has reviewed those original plans. We have made corrections, and hopefully by the end of this month we'll be going out to bid for the full infrastructure project. One thing that I do want to bring up that has been an occurrence, we had several major leaks over the past couple weeks with freezing temperatures and everything. I would just like to reiterate that we do offer water scope. It is a meter, it's a meter that you can actually go on and be self-indulging yourself. You'll be able to see what your daily water usage is. You'll be able to see if there is a leak. It helps you guys also be aware of what's going on within your household. And just so you guys have a little bit of an understanding, 1 gallon a minute is actually 1,400 gallons a day. Over the course of a 90-day billing cycle, that's 129,000 gallons, which would be equivalent to running one of the town wells for 1 day. So that's something that I just wanted to kind of bring into the picture and have you a little bit better of understanding of why the water department is chasing these leaks. Obviously, with the water situation we have right now, these leaks have not been easily on the tanks. That's part of what the purpose of us investing in the water scope was to allow for. Unfortunately, at this time, we are one critical element away from us having to activate well 10. Hopefully, within the next week, like I said, we'll be activating the interconnection with Middleborough, which will alleviate us from having to turn well 10 on at that time. Other than that, I think that's the update.
Questions, Councilor?
Through you, question on larger users like BSU and the prison. Do we know what, I mean, are any of the leaks anything to do with the larger institutions? Is that something we can reach out to them to make sure that, you know, I don't know what kind of water conservation efforts they have, like in showers and dorms and things like that?
Yes, so everything that goes before planning board and everything now has to be low flow, just for building regulation purposes. So those projects, as they are coming down the line, they will have water restrictions available to them. The prison is actually not on Bridgewater Town water.
Okay.
That's right. Well, I want to add something that Bill said there. We have had, and Bill has been a part of this, Azu and myself, for example, before the holidays, I met with President Clark, and we talked once again about making sure we're collaborating, we're communicating with our DPW. I know it was mentioned before, there was a large sort of summer process where they used a lot of water. We've been very clear, like, we need to communicate with that. I think Bill's gonna meet with their facilities team to make sure we're just on the same page with water. So that conversation with President Clark has, you know, had multiple times. I know it was just within the past 2.5 weeks we've talked about it, making sure we're collaborating. I do know they do water conservation efforts there as well, so.
Just to reiterate Justin's point, is right now, water backflows are tested semi-annually. Right now, we are going through the process of doing all of Bridgewater State's backflows as they are not in session. So we do have staff that are going into BSU buildings every day over the course of the winter break to also see if there are leaks, if their meter is continuously flowing, things like that, so we can eliminate unused water.
And the statistic you provided about leaks and stuff, that's very important, because if you have a fixture in your house, a toilet or a sink that's drip, drip, drip,
Yeah.
better to use that scope and deal with it.
We do get calls at the end of a 90-day billing cycle. Why is my bill $5,000 above what it usually is? That's part of the issue, and that's why we are trying to bring in the water scope and things like that to help the homeowner understand that it is a bigger situation, that a small problem can become a big problem later on down the road.
So just a unique suggestion. Library has a library of things where they lend out stuff. They're open more hours than Town Hall. I don't know how much those water scopes cost or anything, but maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have it there and people can check it out.
You can pull it up on your cell phone. It's actually,
it's an app, okay.
Yeah, so you guys would, and I should have led with that. So you guys can call the water department office. The ladies in the office would be gladly to help set up any customer. For those that are not, or elderly that do not want to use the apps and things like that, you can call the water department. We can give you that information. It's not something that we are actively looking all the time at because of the situations and other things that we have going on, but the staff is always available to pull up your individual service and let you know what's going on.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for the update, but just wondering if we could brainstorm some ideas about how to get more folks signed up for WaterScope, and if we know currently how many folks are signed up. I just think it's a great tool. It's something I utilize. I get notifications in my email, so emails get sent to me when excessive water use happens. It's an incredible tool, and the town has invested a lot of time and money in that. So I think anything we could do to just remind folks or get more folks signed up would be great.
Are there any costs associated with enrolling in WaterScope?
Nope.
Did you have something, Councilor Hunt?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering about that also, if we could put it online someplace.
Yes,
so
there is an
that people are
active
seeing
link
it?
on our website, on the water department website now, and it does give you instructions to sign up on your own as well.
Okay. And then the other thing I had wondered, you said that as the wells that are going to be newly used or reused, that it might come out not being so great at the beginning as it's starting to flush.
So that would be for the Middleborough interconnection. That's because we are actually reversing the direction of flow. So at that point, you would be stopping the water main and then restarting the water main and pushing it back in a different direction, which would cause tuberculation.
Sure. I just wonder if the people who receive that water have been informed about that.
Yeah, we've been actively progressing it. And like I said, part of the reason why we didn't use reverse 911 when we actually made the emergency declaration was my biggest component is we need to do action, where this is now an actionable effect, where you can actually do something as a homeowner to help alleviate the situation, where before we were just saying, yes, we are in a state of emergency with the water supply. At that time, now we're moving forward, we will be able to have an instruction and let you guys be notified as we turn on and activate that water service.
Excellent, thank you.
Councilors?
Have you found leaks from, how many have you found?
So I have found 2 leaks in commercial buildings that we're actually looking to be using about 20,000 gallons a day. That was at Perkins Foundry and 31 Perkins Street.
Okay. Any other questions? Just on timelines, we spoke earlier that the 90 days begins once the water starts flowing from Middleborough. What's the timeline look on the trailer development and an eventual implementation into the system?
Right now, we're looking at early March. That's just with feasibility of things and getting actually that site ready to go. There's a little bit of groundwork that needs to be done in order to get those trailers in there and easily accessible. We are hoping that by the time the Middleborough interconnection is deactivated, that those trailers will be in place, ready to go.
Yeah, that's my next question. Is obviously time is time is of very importance because we want to make sure those two match up. I don't need to tell you that, but we want to make sure that those two items match up so we don't have a lapse or a gap in between with spring coming and inevitably more water usage, even though we do have an outdoor ban. So I'm glad to see that that timeline matches up. That's great.
One thing I think is important to add is that part of this is, especially the trailers, for example, as Bill mentioned, Middleborough, we've gotten DEP, so it's in DEP's hand. Middleborough, all of us, we've done our job. The trailer does require significant pilot testing, engineering, but DEP approval of it. So obviously, we're trying to make sure we're doing as much work as possible to get that prepared. Our engineers are working on it. We've made that a priority. Bill's made that a priority for their team. They've heard that directly from me, but it also has to get DEP approval. So I remember when we talked about this, we said we have to acknowledge there's a third party involved with that, and this is pretty significant, DEP obviously. So we're doing everything to make sure we can hopefully get those trailers online even before the Middleborough connection is done. So we're doing everything possible to make sure that happens.
Just a follow-up question. Do we have any update on our withdrawal ask of DEP, if we can increase the withdrawal? I know we were working on that.
That'd be something the zoo would probably be able to answer better.
Good evening, Councilor Murphy. No, we are not even close to that. We have to finish these steps here before we get to the level of our withdrawal, our increase. So they're not going to entertain. They're not even entertaining that right now.
Okay, so this project's tied to that piece.
Exactly. You have to show that you have stabilized what you have.
Understood.
And
Thank
then
you.
and then we meet the quality treatment requirements going forward.
Thank you.
Anything further? Great. Well, thank you guys for the work. It sounds like things are moving along, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, the one thing that Bill said, and I think is really important for people to hear this again, and so we're clear. Remember when we started this process, we said, we are doing everything we can to make sure we don't turn 10B on unless there's a catastrophic situation, fire safety for the town. The storage tank levels have dropped pretty low because of these large leaks that, one, our staff is being proactive going about trying to find these leaks, and we're encouraging people to do that. We believe that the Middleborough connection, as we said, we're hoping that the construction starts this week and that we're able to tie in next week. And if that plays out, hopefully we don't have to turn 10B. But if our storage tanks fall critically low for fire safety reasons, we do have to turn that well on. We're doing everything to make sure we don't have to do that, but we have to be clear about that that's something that we might have to do.
Just to follow up on that, if I could. How will you communicate that if you do have to turn it on?
Yeah, we would communicate that as we've typically done. We'll do it on our, Facebook, our website, et cetera. So we will let that know, and I will make sure we would let the council know that. Like I said, we're doing everything possible. Hopefully construction happens this week, and then we'll have the tie-in hopefully next week, and that's not an issue for us because that's the whole point, to fill our tanks and allow us to do that flushing program as well too. So
This is a little outside of the scope, but it's something that I was thinking about earlier. When we do get 10A and 10B treated through the treatment trailer, it's only for iron and manganese, and it's going to mix with High Street, which has relatively lower levels of PFAS. Have we done the calculations of if that blend is going to increase the total load? Is that something that we've started to look at yet?
our engineering team has worked with, I don't know if Bill needs to add to it, but our engineering team has looked at that. One thing also regarding that, I know there's sort of questions some of our councilors have asked about it. You know, the trailers is to treat the iron and magnesium. We've looked at PFAS as well, if there's an opportunity to do that. We're looking at a variety of things to address that. So our engineering team has looked at that under the leadership of Bill and, you know, obviously Azu as his supervisor. We've been engaging on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Summer Street.
Summer Street, our CD director is going to give the update on that one.
Good evening. I'm happy to say, and I'll share this after the meeting because we just finalized it today in terms of the landscape plan for the Summer Street gas station. We spent some time looking at what we could do in addition to landscaping inside the building. And unfortunately, I don't think we have adequate funding to do both at this point. So the plan is to move forward with the landscape plan that was socialized back in 2024 by Melissa Ann Desjardins. We've tweaked it a little bit. Stormwater management is a big concern over there because of the elevation change. We will do some cosmetic improvements to the outside of the building. We do have to make one of the bathrooms ADA compliant. We'll be doing that. And then we'll look at other sources of funding in terms of what happens inside the building. So our goal is to put a bid package together for the landscape package in the next couple of weeks. Anyone listening, I mean, our priority would be to work with local contractors if possible. So we encourage them to reach out. We're happy to have a site visit, but we'll have a complete bid package together. We need to have this project substantially completed by July 1st of this year for the park grant, so we feel comfortable that we're going to meet that timeline. I mean, in terms, we've had a public meeting back in the summer at the Cedar Street Community Center. I mean, we showed some concept plans what can happen with the exterior of the building, depending on where we are in funding at the end, whether that's a pergola or some other type of outside feature will be dependent on what we have available for funding, but the building will look better at the very minimum.
Thank you. Questions from councilors?
Thank you. I know BSU had discussions with us to be involved in the project. Any further discussions whether they can help out more with the building aspect of the project?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the next conversation. I mean, we've always kept them informed in terms of what we're doing. They're supportive of it. There's been this loose conversation that they've, are going to commit some money to this. I haven't seen that formalized, so we might be there now.
Okay.
But what we're seeing in terms of some of the improvements to the building, it's probably going to be another grant thing we need to look at coming up, which is fine. The outside piece, I think, is important. It's going to change that aesthetic pretty significantly. We currently have a complete streets grant application in to DOT to do sidewalk improvements at that intersection as well. So if we can tie all these together, I mean, we can make a big difference there with one project.
Just an extension of that, was there a finalized plan on what to do with the building along with the landscape architecture?
No, I mean, I think, there's been a lot of discussion, but there hasn't been any conversation on what the formal programming of that would be.
Right.
But, we had thought about maybe having access to the bathrooms from inside the building. We're not ready for that. We know we can do that from the outside and put, locks on the building at a certain time, so somebody doesn't have to go down there and manually lock those. But, that's always been a concern of us, safety with those bathrooms.
Right. Thank you.
Just going to ask you, I can't remember if this was in the presentation or not. Can you share that cost breakdown with us or at some point?
I talked to Debbie earlier. We just finalized this today, so I will get a package out to you through Debbie tomorrow.
It'd be great to see sort of what we can do and then what we'd like to do in the cost breakdown.
Yeah, we don't have a detailed cost breakdown of the interior of the building. I mean, we've had contractors and we're continuing to talk to them. I have a pretty detailed cost breakdown for what we're doing on the exterior. There are some things that we probably will eliminate that will, again, free up some additional money. And again, some of that is the landscape architect, as an example, didn't understand that we were applying for the Complete Streets grant because that came after she had done her initial work. So I think if we can consolidate some of that, we're going to probably see some cost savings that we could put back into the building.
Awesome. Yeah, it's such a great opportunity. I'd love to work with the town manager to find additional revenue sources. So I know that's something I enjoy doing, so if there's anything I could do to help.
God bless you.
And now that the fire department is complete, this is another aspect of the job. Any possibility that we could reach out to Bristol Plymouth in terms of some of the interior stuff, because they do projects throughout the year through all the communities. And when I was on the school committee for Southeastern, all the community had to do was ask. The only limitations we had in the other projects were height, and that's not an issue because it's one level. Lead paint could be an issue because it's an older place, but like, for instance, our students, when Southeastern was revitalized, the kids took the old electrical shop, worked alongside of the contractors that were working on the bigger project, and they did they turned it into a daycare center. And it was a small building similar to the size of the gas station. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, we worked with them on some upgrades at the senior center
Yeah.
2 years ago. I mean, certainly something we could pursue. I mean, I've also, it's come to mind, I'll put it out that, there are aspects of cleaning up that site that would be an appropriate Eagle Scout project for Boy Scouts. So we're happy to have that conversation, but, we really would like this to be more community-focused in terms of who's working on it than, bringing people from the outside.
Yeah. Earth Day project.
Yeah.
Anything further, councilors? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Post-override supplemental update.
Yeah, so this was requested just to give an update on where we are in regard to the post-override. I'll run through the positions just to clarify. I know the council has a memo of mine from the 11th, but as part of the post-override supplemental appropriation, we froze some positions or we made some reductions in hours. So the assistant town manager position, we froze that through December. Now, obviously, we did not fill that position. I think as part of my operational update, I gave an update to the council that we went through an interview process in December for that position. I haven't made a decision just yet on an assistant town manager just yet, and that will be communicated. I anticipate sometime maybe after February that we might have someone coming on board there, but we froze that position till through December. The executive assistant to the town manager, we've reduced the hours for that position. Everyone knows that we have Cajun on board there, and we did exactly what we said we were going to do regarding that. In the finance department, we froze the admin assistant assessor position. That's frozen. We reduced the hours for the administrative assistant collector position. We did that. In the police department, we froze the captain position as well as the police cadet position. They remain frozen. And library with the archivist position, we froze that position. I'm just going to add a little bit to that just to go a little bit beyond the positions. Remember, we used the employees liability stabilization fund to help offset some of that. Remember, as part of the council's transfer of free cash, we reappropriated that money into that stabilization fund. In addition to that, we've, in collaboration with our union groups and our employees, not only just our union groups, but our non-union, our department heads, we've, they reduced their COLAs for only this year and next year. We had another collective bargaining group, which this is another update. Our USW group worked in collaboration with our team, and they made those same changes that all of these other collective bargaining groups have done. So we've done a lot of progress and made a lot of progress, and obviously adhered to what we said we were going to do as part of that post-override supplemental appropriation.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Next, you have town manager open office hours.
Yeah, so I have, I know some councilors have joined for some of our other town manager office hours, but I think it's important to let the community know that in January 23rd, from 8 to 12, we're just going to have open office hours. Some of these meetings, as the council knows, some of it we have open, where it's just a collaborative open meeting, but this is more individualized. So if people are interested in doing that, please reach out to occasionally in my office at the townmanager@bridgewaterma.org email, and they can schedule meetings with me with my town manager open office hours. I'm just adhering to my commitment to try to engage with the community as much as possible. The next item is roadway improvements. Just wanted to get ahead of this. In December, the Healy administration announced that they were providing some grant funding for some municipal paving. So the town of Bridgewater is going to get, it was one of the communities selected as part of the fiscal year 28 appropriation. I want to make sure we're clear about it. Fiscal year 28, but it's pretty significant work to do on Route 104 from Route 9 to 12 and a half. I sent an email to the council that gives a, GIS map that shows you, but it's pretty significant work. It's from the tracks of 104 to get into 106, and it's about 3.5 miles. It's pretty much in a good stretch of Plymouth Street. So we're very happy about that. Obviously, we advocate to try to get more additional money to help us do roadway improvements. So, we're pleased to let you guys know about that. But fiscal year 28, we're scheduled to get that.
Great. Any questions on that or anything from councilors for a future town council meeting?
No.
No? Nothing? Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll now move on to discussions. So we did have an open meeting law complaint that we received on December 19th, 2025. It was in regard to annual license renewals. This is something that we've always done this way, where we have a list of all of the license renewals on a single item, and then we approve that list collectively. And there was a open meeting law complaint that wasn't the proper way to do that. And our town attorney is reviewing and dealing with that issue. So we just wanted to bring that up as a discussion item to let the public know and let the councilors know that we did receive that complaint and that it is being handled by our town council. Do any councilors have any questions or comments on that? Do I just want to bring it up for everyone?
Yeah, I'd just like to appoint Vice President McGrath while you serve your sentence for that. So I'd like to make that motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your motion.
I'm appointing Vice President McGrath should Council President Loretti have to serve a sentence for that violation.
I'll bring coffee.
Are you going to provide her with a file?
Yeah, there were dozens and dozens of businesses on the license renewal, so I feel that it would be impractical to list all of them. But again, it's going to be reviewed. Yeah, it was listed in the agenda packet, but we didn't, I didn't, rather, verbally acknowledge all of those license transactions. Dr. Perry and then Mark.
So I would just say, for the number of years I've been on the council, we've never read that entire list of businesses in any of the years that we've done license renewals. So again, we'll wait for the word of the town council, but again, that's typically the way we've typically done it, so.
Yeah. All right.
And in our experience, in my experience, we've done similar process here. So obviously, I think it was important that you have to put it on as a discussion item for the council, but, obviously our town attorney will handle the response to that. And I think.
Thank you. And then Mark, did you have something?
And since it was in the packet and it was an attachment, I think we could also possibly say, that packet's available to the public. When you hit our agenda and you hit meeting files and you go into it, it's all there. So he'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's on it. We'll take care of it. Anything further?
Just to expand on that, there's many items that we've seen in the past that have multiple lists, for licenses or what have you. And again, we've never, on any of those items, read the list on out because it's been publicly posted, and certainly that, I believe, covers the open meeting law. So, but again, we'll dig into that some more. But
yeah.
It might just be worth it to say, we're going to vote for it, but it's all listed, it's all publicly listed where you can get it, and tell people where they can find it, if that's an issue for them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that could help.
I was just curious from the town council if he would indulge. What is the process when the town receives a complaint like this? How do you approach that, or what does that look like?
Under the meeting law, you have a certain amount of time to have this hearing that you're actually having now. So you essentially have the meeting, you discuss the violation, you have the authority to delegate a response, which is what you're doing. And then we have a certain time frame to respond. I actually have it memorized. We can actually request extensions of that time if need be. But because you've had the meeting today, we'll respond accordingly, and then we'll go from there. But obviously, if there's further issue or litigation, we'll discuss those things in executive session.
Thank you.
One further point. We had a complaint on one of the bodies that I served on before in a different community, and what we did is we made the information, it's publicly accessible on the website, but it was also a printed copy. We had it at the public library. I know the town clerk's office has binders with all the, the council stuff too, so, I think that could be part of it.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Do we have any committee reports this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Downtown Revitalization Committee met on 12/18. We had invited Mr. Rulli, the CD and the chair of the Historical Commission and the chair of the Historical Committee, the chair of the Tree Committee, and the tree warden. So the trees on the common are dying, and the tree warden has a plan to replace them gradually. Mr. Rulli and his department are looking at grants to have a preliminary landscape of the common and also grants for store signs. We're also discussing the billboard and what can be done in fixing up the front of the buildings. And we haven't planned the next one, but we will be inviting all these people, also the town manager, and there's a few other ones that will be coming to help us with this.
Thank you. I watched that meeting. It looked like a really great and productive meeting, so I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, we had fun.
Yeah. Any other committee reports? Budget and Finance will do during our items.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. We'll now move on to legislation for action. First up is Order FY 26-038, a transfer order for CPC town-owned cemetery assessment. So the Budget and Finance Committee met the other night, and we did initially vote to refer back to the council with some amendments, but we did speak with the CPC chair after that meeting, and we did decide, or rather, if it's the will of the council, we did want to have that sent back to committee so that we could vet that out even further. So just so everybody is kind of apprised, we did speak about this in great detail, and Councilor Murphy could speak to that. And we had discussed potentially doing a smaller assessment, but I'll let Councilor Murphy kind of provide an overview.
Yeah, nothing too much to add to that. I think we had a great presentation by a few members of CPC that were present regarding the assessment and what that meant. At the committee, I thought did a great job of just asking questions about the overall project, what that looks like, ask some questions about what it would look like to narrow that down, what it would look like in terms of starting small, building out, how that would affect us financially. Just a lot of great discussion that took place. So looking forward to helping push this along, but would encourage folks to go back and look at that discussion if they have an opportunity to.
Definitely. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to refer back to Budget and Finance so that we'd have a little bit more time to vet this out before the council decides to vote on a potential appropriation.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion on this one? Okay, I see none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, Order FY 26-039, acceptance of a donation, McBee Enterprises, DBA McDonald's. The Budget and Finance Committee met on yesterday, so I'll ask Councilor Murphy for an update.
Budget and Finance Committee voted 3-0 to accept the donation.
Okay, and Finance Committee voted 5-3 to recommend at their 12/22 meeting. So I would entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Order FY 26-040, transfer order. This is for a water capital fund transfer. I'll ask Councilor Murphy for Budget and Finance update.
Budget and Finance voted 3-0 to approve.
Thank you. The Finance Committee voted 5-3 to recommend. And just as a little bit of overview on this one, this is money to cover the cost of dehumidification at that site. There is some corrosion that's occurring, and part of this, as I understand it, is a design flaw, and we're going through a process of recouping those funds. So while we do, at this time, are entertaining to apply funds to provide for that dehumidification, we are hoping to recoup that cost. So hopefully we'll see that money come back. Anything additional from our town manager on that one?
No, I would just say that's particularly for one site, that's the High Street site.
Yes.
The other one, Carver's Pond, that was part of our capital process and our sanitary report, but absolutely correct.
Thank you. So with that, I'd entertain a motion for approval and second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, Order FY 26-041, transfer order, and this is for the sewer capital fund transfer. I'll ask Councilor Murphy for an update here.
Budget and Finance Committee voted 3-0 to recommend.
Thank you. And the Finance Committee voted 8-0 to recommend at their 12/22 meeting. So this is just a part of our regular capital program for sewer. So with that being said, I'd entertain a motion for approval. Second for discussion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Order FY 26-042, transfer order. This is for the general fund capital plan transfers. So the Finance Committee met for a second time on this last night during our meeting, Budget and Finance, and they voted to continue to their meeting on January 12th. So I would I guess, would we want to keep this at the council level?
Just postpone to the next meeting.
Just continue it?
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to continue to our next council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Order FY 26-043, transfer order for ambulance overtime transfer. I'll ask Councilor Murphy for an update on this one.
Budget and Finance voted 3-0 to approve.
Thank you. Finance Committee also voted 8-0 to recommend at their 12/22 meeting. This is to cover overtime that is accrued on the fire side of things, to allow for additional manpower on that vehicle. So that's what these monies would be covering. Anything additional from our town manager? No.
Just to offset EMS expenses related to EMS expenses, so that will allow us to cover the additional overtime to raise our minimum manning from 10 to 11.
And our chief has been advocating for that for a while, so this appropriation would allow that to happen. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
And second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have Order FY 26-044. This is for water system improvements loan authorization. I will ask Councilor Murphy for an update.
Once again, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3-0 to recommend.
Great. And the Finance Committee voted 8-0 to recommend at their 12/22 meeting. So this would have to be referred to advertising, so I'd entertain a motion to refer to advertising.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have Order FY 26-045, adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. So the Finance Committee, they also met yesterday evening, as did Budget and Finance, and they asked to continue this to their next meeting on January 12th. So with that being said, similar to our transfer order for capital fund, I would entertain a motion to continue this to our next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, legislation for action. We have Resolution FY 26-006, a resolution of the Bridgewater Town Council in support of the letter to Governor Healy and the Massachusetts Legislature regarding the urgent need for municipal aid, infrastructure, investment, and state partnership. This article is not referred to committee. 14 days has elapsed per Section 17 of the Council Rules and Procedures. Therefore, this measure may be finally considered this evening. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion for approval and second for discussion.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. So this was a letter that Councilor Murphy drafted and worked with Councilor Kennedy and myself, and that is circulating around here. So any further discussion on this one? Oh, yes. We already signed it, so you might as well vote to approve it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, old business, we do not have any. For new business, we have Order FY 26-046, acceptance of donation, Oliari Charitable Foundation. So I would entertain a, actually, let's introduce that rather. Sorry, we're a little out of order. I'll ask our town manager to introduce this one.
Yep. So the town has graciously received a $45,000 donation from the O'Leary Charitable Foundation. It's to go to our police, fire department, as well as the library, at the discretion of the department heads of those departments. So we appreciate that $45,000 donation.
Thank you. I got a little disorganized over here.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance?
Thank you. You knew what I was going to ask for. We have a motion, and then do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have Order FY 26-047, acceptance of donation for the Bridgewater Police Association. And I'll ask our town manager to introduce that one.
Once again, another gracious donation. This is from our Bridgewater Police Association of $1,050 to go to the Veterans Office to support its mission, and at the discretion of that department head. We appreciate that donation as well.
Thank you. So with that being said, I'd ask for a motion to refer to Budget and Finance and the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Last for new business, we have Resolution FY 26-007, an assessment of the reuse of the former town hall, AKA townhouse. I'll ask Councilor Ellenberg to introduce this article for us.
Thank you. And Gina Gasconi, who is head of the CPC, I believe, has indicated that there are some amendments that need to be made, and I'd like to pass out potential amendments that would be in compliance with Gina Gasconi's directions. And what this says that the town of Bridgewater has already invested in the outside of townhouse. This grant application is for the inside to be studied as to electricity, water use, plumbing, also the mechanical, plumbing, and life safety systems. So this article is asking for the CPC to be involved in managing this Old Town Hall renovation. And the grant is to first study it so that we would then know what we have to do to get the townhouse renovated on the inside. The article goes on to state that Old Town Hall will require significant work to be usable as a public gathering space, but can be effectively used as a cultural center that includes exhibit, retail, learning, and performance spaces. And there was a prior survey that indicated that the residents of Bridgewater would like a cultural center in the old townhouse. So we will have to be writing a letter to the Historical Commission and also to the CPC to ask for them to endorse this. I would point out that this is being done in a little bit of an unorthodox measure because the grant application deadline was in 6 days after I found out about the grant. So there was 4 days, and town manager's office helped submit the grant. And so I'm looking for the council to endorse this and to assign the CPC with the duties of restoring townhouse.
I think that'd be a violation of the charter. The town manager is responsible for the use, maintenance, and repair of all town facilities. It's subsection 10 under town manager's duties, Town of Bridgewater Charter. This would go directly in the face of that charter provision.
Well, I'm surprised about that because the CPC did the exterior of the building, so then they weren't allowed to do that then?
All I'm saying to you is, and this is the first I'm seeing this, probably the last 2 minutes, but my understanding of what you're proposing, just in what you said, was that the Community and Preservation Committee for the town of Bridgewater would be in charge of and supervise the maintenance or repair of a town facility. Am I reading that right?
And the reason why was the CPC hired a manager, a clerk of the works, to do the exterior work. So probably the CPC would see it necessary to, again, have a clerk of the works do it under town manager's supervision and CPC funding it.
Again,
Perhaps I could answer some questions since I was there doing it at that time.
More than happy.
Okay. I was chair of the CPC when the exterior renovation was done, I think from 2008 to 2010. And certainly, the CPC came through with money to do that, requested by the town manager. This wasn't something that the CPC just created and did on its own. That isn't what the CPC does. So that's what it was. There was a company hired who did the exterior renovation, did a very wonderful job on it. It certainly isn't new. It's 15 plus years old by now. And when the roof was redone, we did that through the town manager's office. Here, I wrote the grant for that as town clerk, and the roof was redone then. So I certainly think
this was put through the town manager's office, of course.
This has to be something that the town manager's office would ask someone to do, like ask the CPA to do it or write its own grant for it. I did help the town manager's office write the grant for the roof. So those are the way things are done. It can't be, the CPA can't go around saying, hey, we're going to do this without somebody requesting it.
Exactly, and that's why I'm asking for the council to endorse the fact that we put in the application for the grant so we don't let the building rot.
I think the town manager has to do that.
The town manager already put in the grant through his office.
So I don't think the council has weight on that.
Yeah, I think, so I want to be very clear about this. The scope of this thing that we just saw today is a little different than what the scope of what is in your packet, right? And I just want to double back to that a little bit.
Yes.
So there's a resolution is a resolution that the town manager can do or cannot do. And at that time, because the grant application is based on an annual basis, I didn't want our office and this process to be a barrier to us applying for a grant. So we went and applied for a grant. We made that decision. The town manager's office made that decision. We applied for the grant. This is a little bit beyond that scope of that. So I would probably just say, we can work at this. We could talk about it. I mean, the council can do a resolution to ask us to apply to the CPC and do that, and we will consider that. I think we've worked collaboratively for like the grant. I just think it needs a little work. This is the first time we're seeing this, obviously. I just want the council to know, my office, we did apply for the grant. Like we said, we didn't want to be a barrier. That grant was going to be on an annual basis, so we wanted to get ahead of it. We did do that. So I feel like we resolved that already.
Yes. So it's just a matter of whether the council approves it or not, but the town manager has already put it in, so maybe it's irrelevant.
Well, excuse me. At this juncture, would you want to work with our town attorney and our town manager to amend this language so that it's compliant with the charter.
I have no problem with amending it in compliance with the charter and doing the necessary steps to inform the Historical Society, the CPC, and various other parties that would be involved. My haste was to make the deadline for the state grant application. And if we didn't make the deadline, we'd have to wait another entire year. So then the building would get even more rotten. So that's what that haste was about.
So, Jason, if you could help me, should we just retain this at the council level and then you all could work on amendments and bring it to the next council meeting? Is that appropriate?
You could do that. I think we need to figure out what we're trying to accomplish with it.
Right.
And Councilor Ellenberg will have to kind of fill me in on what it specifically she wants to accomplish. I mean, it's obviously a resolution, so I'm assuming there's some aspirational element to this that you want a message presented to the town manager about what you'd like to see. I think that's what you're maybe trying to...
And to the state agencies that the council is backing the application request.
Yeah, I think that's totally doable in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, not to speak for everybody, that we're all in support of the grant application and want to see the old town hall revitalized. We just need to make sure that the language is the right way to say it.
Amendments that
Usually it's possible that you could ask the council to write a letter of support to the town manager that he could include with the application. I mean, is that, I've seen things like that done before.
You could, I would say in this case, the
Already
grant was
done it.
submitted in December.
Yeah, you've already submitted it. so-
Yeah, we made the deadline.
All right, so, go ahead.
I'm just, again, as we've discussed and what Councilor Hunt said before, it's mostly driven by the town manager. I think we're probably putting a little bit of the wagon before the horse here. Let's see what the process goes as far as applying for the grant, and then if we do get that, then I think we could potentially come up with a resolution to deal with the grant funding that comes with that and the direction that we want to go. But at this point in time, it might be, again, putting the cart before the horse when doing this particular resolution. Let's see what the grant writing does and the approval of that, and then potentially come up with a resolution from there.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, Councilor Ellenberg, when was that survey taken, what the town should be using this town hall for?
I believe that was 2023, and my amendment, Ms. Gasconi pointed out that it was the Townhouse Reuse Committee, which is now defunct,
Which I chaired.
Right, which is the one that did the survey, and now duties have been assumed by the CPC.
I don't think we did that survey. There was a survey done around 2012. Various things have been done, but the committee that lasted for 3 years, that got no assistance from the town and didn't make any progress, that I chaired as town clerk at the behest of the town manager. That ended just before I left as town clerk.
So maybe we could do another survey. You know, it's
Well, I
2026.
believe our town manager is already doing a survey with that question about what will be the use of townhouse. And your question, I believe, is that townhouse shall be done under the supervision of BSU. That was your question.
No.
No, it wasn't.
Well, they've been very
Obviously,
clear they're not interested.
one of the things as part of the town manager goals, we said we would do a resident survey at a certain time. Obviously, we made the decision in collaboration. We were ready to do a survey, but me wanting to be collaborative with the council, I forwarded for feedback from the council, and we have received some feedback from the councils. But it provided a couple of options there in terms of that. It wasn't specifically BSU.
BSU, okay.
It was just a variety of options
that's good.
there.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
I would kind of like to see a new survey done to see what the residents would like the reuse of the town
Okay,
hall.
well, I suppose we can do a new survey. The grant is in.
So I was interested in this topic too back a few years ago, and I found out through the former town clerk that the current town clerk in her office is a blue binder that's about this thick that has all the information, that all the work that was done, the minutes of those meetings. It's pretty comprehensive. I actually borrowed it for a while from the town clerk for quite a while, and it's back in her office on her shelf. So I think we could get some great information from that. I think we can work through the language, and, you know, fact of the matter is the grant's in, so now let's figure out how to move it forward. It is a fairly expensive project. It's not an easy project. I mean, we've heard a lot of stuff from people. Let's put an antique shop in there. And it was pretty decided for a cultural center. There's a stage in there. The partitions on the first floor are all not historically important. The Historic District Commission would weigh in. I think it's a downtown thing. I think it's a economic development thing. There's also talk about what's going to happen, obviously, with the fire station behind it, and, you know, the building would have to be ADA compliant, which is part of the big cost, and you'd have to probably put an elevator on the back and maybe parking, and it's pretty comprehensive. So I think the grant's in. Now you're right. I think we got to back up a little bit and
See if we get the grant first and go from there.
I just had one more question. During the assessment, would we be told whether this building's worth saving or not? I mean, it has been sitting there for a long time.
Yes.
I did take a tour. The basement is concerning.
It's been gone over by a real professional, the one who helped do the roof and all of that sort of thing, has gone through it and said, yes, this is definitely a building that should be saved for the town. It can't be like the McElwain School, which sat empty for 20, 25 years, which was brick, and then could be created into something that has been a really wonderful prize-winning thing. This is not a brick building. This is a wooden building, and it needs to be taken care of, and it's very important. It's very important for the town.
But if it was assessed, I'm just saying, because I've seen the inside, if it was assessed dangerous, would this assessment...
The things that were assessed dangerous, even while we were still working there, one of the stairways was assessed dangerous because there was some peeling off of the interior wall.
So what if they assessed it was like, you know, it can't be fixed, it's better off to take whatever you can out and demolish? Would this assessment tell us that?
Yes, or we could have the same man come up again, who is the man who did this building.
Yeah.
And he went over to that one and he said, it's an equally important building to save, and it can be saved. That's why we put the new roof on it. It would have gone down. The roof was falling off.
What year was that?
That was, let's see.
3 years ago?
3 years
Yeah.
ago?
Okay, not too bad.
Maybe 4 years ago. It was before I
that
left.
range.
I left 3 years ago, I think. I don't know. But anyway, it's been, and the top has been reinforced, the ceilings have been reinforced. A lot of that has happened. There was mold in the basement.
Yeah.
It's a mess. The ceiling is low in the basement. Things like that are going to take a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff that came from places where it was being stored before and was just dumped there. Like, for instance, the freezes that are now here in this building were dumped over there. We found them there. I found them there broken after I'd looked for them for years, and we were able to restore those. So it is a project. It's a big project. It's not a quick project. What I wondered is how much was the grant?
Well, the grant is only for the study of the actual premises, the heating, the water, and all of that.
Okay.
Based on 9,000 square feet, that grant is for 8,000 through 14,000. We probably would get around the 8,000 for the study of what those systems need. Then we would have to get a new grant, of course, and perhaps match it with CPC funds, perhaps, to get the project underway. But it is a historically designated landmark, is it not?
I believe so.
I think it was designated
Yes.
historical.
I think it
So
was.
if it's historically designated, we've got to do this.
We definitely should do it. Should have done, doing it since 2010.
Exactly. That's why I'm
yes,
trying to move on
although
it
there are
now.
major things in town to be done too, but it's
course.
good that we're trying to move forward on it. I think that's really good. I do think it comes as under the town manager's wing to do it, not the town council. But we should be supportive. I'm speaking for myself. We should be
Yes.
very supportive of what our town manager is doing, and thank you for bringing it up and keeping us going on it.
Didn't want another year to go by.
Good.
Maybe I'm just tired and grumpy, but I'd like to echo the statements made by Councilor McGrath. I think this building has sat vacant for an extremely long period of time. It seems like we do an assessment every 10 years to see what status it's in with no actual outcome. It sounds like the building's so far gone in terms of who's going to take on that project and rehabilitate it. And so I think the town should look at opportunities to get it out of the town's hands and put it in somebody's hands who can take care of the building properly or can reuse the property. And so I would love to see that building in its own respect stay historical, stay, within our town, but be taken care of. And it just seems like a project that the town will never wrap its hands around. And I think we got to be real about that, and we have to have a plan going forward about that. We're about to add another vacant building behind it in the near future as well too. And just to have two vacant buildings sit there as we keep reassessing its use and its status and the mold and the heating, it just seems like such a waste to me to have it sit there. And so my opinion is that I think we should search for other avenues in which we can make that building usable.
I think there's a lot of that the committee did for 3 years. We didn't have a town manager who was backing us up with looking to find a way to fund it or anything like that,
And let's get back in the saddle.
Yeah.
I personally think it is worth saving. We took a 1912 library in Brockton and got grant funding and raised $12 million to build a 48,000 square foot addition to the library in Brockton. Everybody said we couldn't do it. We got $1 million from the owner of Shaw's at the time, and then we were able to raise the other $11 million pretty easily. Once you get a donor, then it moves from there. It's worth doing that assessment, but it can't sit on the shelf again like it did. I think it's an 1843 structure. It's historic to this town. I don't want to see a commercial development in that building, just saying.
I might just mention that we sit here in a very beautiful building. This is not what this building looked like before we moved over here to it.
You
This
did a fine
building
job.
was a mess, and this particular room was just, full of crap. It was just a mess, and it would have looked exactly like that building over there. I was on the building committee for this building. I saw what it took to make this room smaller, keep our parts to it, keep it looking like an old building, but making it usable for now. That certainly could happen next door. It's a much smaller project than this project was.
I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. I think it's important for the council to talk about this a bit. One thing I want to be clear about sort of where I'm at regarding this. We applied for the grant because I think if we can get any grant funding to help us make a decision about what we're doing, let's do that, not utilizing our resources. But I do think, an assessment should be done, a more current assessment needs to be done, so people can understand the costs associated with this. It hasn't just, and obviously it wasn't town manager here, but it didn't sit vacant for a lack of desire maybe to do it, but there's a monetary aspect that goes into it, right? And a significant monetary aspect that the council and our community will have to weigh along with all the other monetary issues that we're facing in town. So, my commitment at least is this: one, we're gonna be collaborative. That wasn't part of why we applied for the grant. We're going to communicate with the council and the community that's part of why it's a proposed question on a survey, to hear from the community, to have more dialogue and discussions. But also you needed more information, right, to understand what the costs are. And then you can make a determination with the information updated and relevant to decide which way we go. So I think it's on our radar. And it's along with all the other issues that we have on our plate moving forward for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add to that because there's a monetary piece to it, but there's also a staff piece to it, right? Somebody has to invest time and effort to get us to the point where we can even get an assessment process going.
Yep.
And I don't believe that now the town is in the position to be dedicating staff or resources or your time towards a vacant building to come up with a plan.
And I appreciate that, Councilor Murphy, because I have said that, right? I have communicated that with Councilor Ellenberg when we talked about it. It was like, we have, obviously, we try to prioritize. There's a bandwidth for our staff, and I have to speak for our staff and our team, because we are a team. There's our capability to do those things. So the grant application we were able to do, we wanted to support that. I think there needs to be an assessment done. There's opportunities probably to collaborate with CPC to provide funding for that, look for other grants. We'll do that work. But then we have to have all that information, and we have to communicate what we can do as well. So I think what I said before is we'll communicate, we'll collaborate, and I think we can make decisions moving forward.
I just wanted to add one thing. The grant says that a state person will be used for the assessment rather than town staff. It specifically says that there's going to be a state assessor coming to look at it before the state would be giving any money to us. So that's out of our hands, if you know what I mean, and the state would be covering the cost of the assessment with the grant.
I don't want to belabor this point, but this grant would probably cover about $8,000 for that size of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm fairly confident the last assessment that the town did for that building was more than $8,000. I know what the playbook is regarding that. So I think we'll get more information. We can look at that. We'll follow up.
Yep.
Right.
Last thing.
You promise.
Just went in my head and out of my head, but that sounds like a great earmark project to get state money for. Okay? We have a legislative delegation. We need lots of money from the state for lots of things. It's not up there. When I talked to Justin when he first came here, it like on the radar screen, it's like probably here. As much as we'd like it to be higher up on the list of priorities. I think it's worth doing our due diligence and figuring out what we can. I think the last time I looked at the book, it was like a $15,000 cost, and I don't know what year those rates were. And then Mr. Rulli looked at the building and really didn't think a lot about the building. There was a big, huge sign up on the building that the committee spent $1,000 on to put up there, rebuilding the future, and that disappeared at some point, and it hasn't been up there. I think people in this community, and I do think we can possibly work with the college. I'm sure the college would love to have that building, but I don't think the college should have that building. I think it's our building, and we could really do something with it.
We should be clear that we have the CPA. CPA has not applied for this grant. That doesn't mean that we can't ask the CPA. They did this building. They did this building. So there is CPA money. Those are things that we pay taxes for, that we have money for. So it may not be that we have to write big grants or ask other people to come out with the money out of their pocket. Let's have it evaluated, see what somebody says, and start
go
maybe
from there.
moving from there. I know our town manager has many, many, many things on his plate. I don't think this should be something that I feel like we should dump on him right now. But I do think it's a thing that needs to be done, or the building really is going to be worthless. If we wait another 10 years, we're not going to have it. And the community, from everything I ever saw, when we did the exterior of that building, the community went crazy being happy. That's when our offices were still over there. It was like, I think, 2008. We were there until 2000, 16. And then after that, they took all the junk and threw it in there. So we're moving from that. But I think there's definitely things that can happen, and I don't think we have to think about where we have to write the grant for it, where we have to go to find it, where we have to pay it out of money that we already have. So, just saying.
Justin, when does that survey go out? I know that
We should talk about that, but we'll figure it out. I think
Okay.
maybe we should talk about that.
I'm of the proponent that we should have a clear direction from the community and from the council as to where we want to go with this project before we ask people for money and apply for not this grant, but additional grants. I think we need a clear direction of what we're going to do with this. And that requires further deliberation beyond this meeting and obviously public input. So on the topic of this resolution, Councilor Ellenberg, do you want to continue to workshop this, or how
Yes.
do you want to proceed?
That's fine. I'll be happy to workshop it with
Okay.
our town manager and any other counselors who would like to be involved.
Cool. So
I was going to make a quick suggestion. Maybe we could add as a discussion item later, somewhere down the line on the agenda, to have that topic.
yeah, I agree. I think we should have input
Although
from the
I know
community.
it's not our purview. To be clear, I know it's not our purview, but I think
Well,
it's
we could set direction and
Right.
and policy and
Policy.
you know, cast the aspirations of the community and the councils to how we want to approach it. And I was going to think about putting on the discussion, so I think that's a great idea, whether it be for next meeting or following meetings. But it's something that gets talked about a lot, and I think that the community, we need to come together and decide what are we going to do. And there's a lot of options, and it should be addressed. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to keep this at the council level, and then you could work on some amendments and bring it back to us.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll now move on, excuse me, to citizen comments. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Anyone may comment at this time for up to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Carlton Hunt, 80 Austin Street, Vice Chair of the CPC Committee. It's very frustrating to sit and listen to folks
Is your mic
that don't know what they're talking about. My mic's on. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. The cultural grant that did the study for reusing the townhouse was funded by a cultural grant with matching dollars from the town of Bridgewater. That report is on the website. I believe it was under the town manager's page.
It is.
One, that lays out many options. It has diagrams of how you might do the interior. It has concepts of what you might do. There is no need for another survey. The survey was done 5 years ago. Two, the CPC voted to fund $16,000 for an interior assessment of the historic nature of that building. That has not been put before the town manager to procure, but we have a proposal from Joe Booth, who was the architect that oversaw this building, and he was very happy to provide us with a quote of how much it would cost for him and his committee to come in and look at the historic features that we should be concerned about preserving. He will not do the mechanical electrical. This grant, fortunately, would be a sister grant to that. That would do the work that you guys all keep talking about with little knowledge. So those things have to happen. There is also a report on the CPC webpage about the history of that house, townhouse. It's 185 years old now. It's got good bones. Mike White, he used to be one of the building inspectors here in town. He's one of the best contractors I know. Went in and saved that building and installed roof support structures that are anchored into the walls and keep that building very good. Unfortunately, there is water leakage in the basement because it's a stone foundation. We need to have that fixed if we're even going to think about saving the building. But the cultural Grant laid out and did the survey work, and it was very detailed, and I would encourage every one of you to read that. CPC paid $5 million. We're still paying the bond off on this building, but CPC has covered that bond. We pay $360,000 a year to cover the principal and interest on that bond. It goes till 2036. So CPC has the funds if the town has the willingness to actually deal with the building. So I'm a little bit frustrated that there have been many studies. I'm trying to give you the elevator size speech of what has been done. There is no need to do another survey. It's been done, and it was cultural. There was a concept of how that building could be used. Having a nonprofit come in and actually manage the building once it was restored. Having a nonprofit that would be licensed or whatever you want to do all the work in there. It could be Boy Scout, Girl Scout meeting place. It could be a cooking school. There's tons of things we can do with that building. There's a theater upstairs. We could do indoor theater stuff if we want to. So that's all laid out in those reports. So I would beg you, please, if we need to sit in a room and get educated, let's do it. But let's not sit here with people saying, well, I need these. I don't know what that report is. Well, where was that report? Well, they're done. They're on the webpage. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit irritated, but I've lived with this for 6 years. Actually, more than that, because my wife over there actually managed to get this building correct. So thank you very much.
And a good job done, too.
Mr. Hunt, Dr. Hunt, is that on the town website or on the CPC website?
The cultural study, as far as I know, the last time I looked, it was on the town manager's webpage.
Okay.
It was funded by a $30,000 for a cultural grant, $30,000 for town money. It's a very good major report. Diagrams, it looks at the fire station, it looks at what you could do. There's concept of how you might redo that whole area. It's been done.
I'll take a look. I haven't been able to find it, so I will continue to look for it.
Could be hard copies in the town manager's office, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and the report that I wrote on the townhouse is on the CPC webpage. There's tons of information available. My wife was the chair of a reuse committee that got zero support after it was formed. We need to take it on as a higher priority. Yes, we've got water issues. I understand that. Yes, but the future and the revitalization of this downtown will demand that we keep that building up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gina Gasconi, 35 Ball Avenue, chairperson of Community Preservation. I was listening to this discussion on my way home, and I felt strongly that I had to come here tonight and speak. I thank Councilor Ellenberg for bringing it forward. I thank Councilor Hunt, and I believe it was Attorney Rollins. Again, I was driving, so I'm not sure, for explaining how the CPC works, that the council doesn't tell the CPC to do something. I think that was hashed out enough for it. I have a question. I know the resolution is going to be worked on. My question is, what is the resolution? What I heard Councilor Ellenberg say was that the resolution was to tell the CPC what to do. We heard we can't do that. But that's not what I read with the resolution. What I saw from the resolution that I had sent my comments on was for the council to agree
for the application. Nothing about telling CPC what to do. As I said, I think it was clarified, CPC, Carlton as vice chair, myself, any members of community preservation would be glad to sit and help. We talked last night at the Budget and Finance meeting about collaborating, CPC collaborating with the town. I agree, as Justin has said, we need to do that. But I just want it clear, because I'm not clear in listening to it, what the resolution is for. Is it for to tell the CPC what to do, or is it for approving the submission of the grant application?
Well, approving the submission of the grant application, and as for CPC, we don't have the right to compel you to do it, but hopefully you guys would do it voluntarily.
Let's limit the back and forth on this one. Let's just...
Right, as Councilor Hunt has said, I believe Attorney Rollins, CPC doesn't come forward and say, oh, let's fund the townhouse. We have to have an application. We have to have an eligibility form, which needs to come for a town building, has to come from the town manager.
Those things will be produced.
Councilor, let's limit the back and forth.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Right. So that was part of my question. Second is, as I said, community preservation is always willing to sit and talk to anybody that has questions. So I would suggest looking at the CPC webpage as you come forward with the revised resolution, that it not be saying you can, and I apologize, I'm not up on resolutions, but you can resolve to ask the town manager to look into it. And as Justin said before, he can decide, if I heard this right, he can decide to do it or not do it. But any application to CPC, anything, like I said, CPC doesn't just come forward and say, oh, we want to do that building. You can go to the town manager, he can request it. But I thank all of you for your attention to it. And as Carlton said, community preservation has voted for funds for an interior assessment, which would go hand in hand with yours. But my question, another question, is this, and I know you can't answer it tonight for the back and forth, is it a matching grant that the state Mass Cultural says it's X thousands of dollars and the town has to come up with a match?
Yes.
So in that case, if the town does receive the grant, you have to look what you'd come for the rest of it. If it would come from community preservation,
right,
the town manager has to put it in. Once that's done, then you have to look at the overall cost of restoring, which
right,
isn't
and
going to
hopefully
be
that's
cheap.
what the assessment will do. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank our CPC chair and vice chair for talking to us tonight. I know we can't do the back and forth, but I think it's important that, and our counselor, former town clerk, for that committee did yeoman's work. If you sat there, which I did, that's why I had the book for so long. I read every single thing that they did. They worked diligently, and then it just got shelved.
Anyone else like to come up and speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move on. We now have councillor comments. Yeah. I'll start with Councillor Lindy.
Thanks. I'm ready to go home, so I'm not going to belabor the comments, but I thank everybody that came out for the first meeting. I think it was very important that we did that, and some people stayed all the way to the end. Good, and some people joined us in progress. It's important. We had a lot of issues to deal with. I think we're all working really hard. If we collaborate and cooperate, we can move forward. So that's all I'm going to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt?
Kind of ditto that, and I hate to take any more time, but there was something that happened this weekend, and I don't think anyone from the council was there, so I'd just like to read it so that we can say it was congratulations to the members of the Boy Scout Troop 31 who received their Eagle Scout badges. So I'd just like to mention them. David Armand, the Eagle Scout, he assembled a shed on the grounds of Bridgewater Vets Club for the purpose of storing worn flags for intended retirement. Benjamin Chase, receiving his Eagle Scout Award, worked with the Bridgewater Veterans Agent to research the wars and conflicts with memorial sites in Bridgewater. Information was compiled online and includes the listing of Bridgewater servicemen killed in action. War memorial signs located at the dedicated bridges and monuments were replaced, and QR codes were affixed to the signs, allowing people to go there and review and research what was found by the team. Nora Gibson, the Eagle Scout Award for fundraising, purchased and assembled picnic tables to be used by the families of Bridgewater Little Leagues at Legion Field. And Benjamin Smith, receiving his Eagle Scout Award, constructed and installed organizational shelving and storage to house essential equipment used by the Bridgewater Rain-M Band and Color Guard. I think that sounds pretty amazing, and I think they are incredible young men who deserve our congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Just want to thank everybody that came out tonight and participated in the first part of our meeting this evening, and then the folks that stuck around. But other than that, nothing more to add. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Perry?
Thank you. Happy New Year to everyone. Apologies for not making the earlier meeting. I will go back and watch the tape. I was still at work, couldn't get away. But again, just looking forward to obviously the upcoming new year. And we got a lot of work ahead of us, especially budgetarily as a council and a town. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So again, just look forward to working on all these issues going forward in the new year. But thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ellenberg?
Yes, thank you for everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for the people who stayed. And other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President McGrath?
I want to thank President Loretti for conducting the public meeting. It produced great conversations, and I look forward to our next one.
Thank you. Yes, Happy New Year to everybody. I meant to open with that earlier, but I forgot. I was just really excited for our public meeting, and I again want to thank the community for being so engaged. It's exciting to see. We got a lot of submissions, and I hope that we honored you all by addressing a lot of those topics here tonight, and those topics which were not addressed, we'll address at a future council meeting. So I thank you for that, and that's all that I have. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.